Well, good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, the 13th of June. The time is a little after 1:15, I can't, 1:18, something like that. The Board of Commissioners. Yeah, can you hear me now? Okay, the Board of Commissioners is in session to have a budget presentation. We need to make a couple of announcements, however. The Wednesday, it was earlier announced, and I guess it may be publicized, that Wednesday from 5 to 6, there'll be a public testimony. Is that what we'd said, Clark? And it has to be 5 to 6 because we have a public hearing that starts at 6 relative to zoning, and we'll be here at that point with a whole bunch of other people. So we'll have to hopefully be wrapped up. And the July 25th, there'll be a tentative budget presentation on the July 25th. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Yes. And that'll be at 6 o'clock, right? Okay. So we're ready to go for today.
Okay. Let's get moving. Good afternoon, Chairman, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
The Ada County Public Defender is the largest criminal defense provider in Idaho. Headed by Chief Public Defender Anthony Geddes, the 68 attorneys, 8 investigators, 21 support staff, along with social services and research divisions, fight to protect and defend the rights of indigent persons in Ada County charged with a crime. Once appointed by the courts, attorneys within the office are immediately assigned to represent adults and juveniles accused of misdemeanor and felony offenses, parents and children in child abuse neglect proceedings, and persons facing involuntary mental commitment. Representation follows a client-centered, holistic approach that includes frequent client contact, social services intervention, research and writing, consultation with experts, investigators and witnesses, arguing legal motions, negotiating settlements, and trying cases before judges and juries. Before you is the Public Defender's budget. FY21 submitted at $14,607,537, flat to last year's appropriation, so therefore no supplementals. Budget to actual history from FY19 to 24, and the number of employees at 106. I'd like to now introduce Tony Geddes, who will present this budget.
Well, welcome to our budget, Mr. Geddes. We're looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners Davidson and Daly, good afternoon. A little nostalgic today, standing before you likely for the last time to present to you my proposed FY24 budget for your Public Defender's Office. First, I'd like to thank you, the board, for your continuing support. We could not do what we do or be who we are without you, so thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you and to do the county's business with you. You've been fantastic stakeholders in our criminal justice system. You understand how important a strong public defense is to the proper administration of justice, so again, thank you. As always, I'd like to thank my Budget and Finance Officer, Jake Precht, for all the hard work that he has put into this budget and this presentation. Also, as always, I'd like to thank the Auditor's Office, Trent, Kathleen, Tim, the entire crew. Year in, year out, they do such a fantastic job. They make this so much easier. Kathleen, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Congratulations on your retirement. I do not know what Trent is going to do without you, but that's a Trent problem. A shout out to my attorneys and staff as well. Truly, they are some of the very best in the business. Their daily commitment to our mission is an inspiration. It is my honor and privilege to be their chief and to make this presentation on their behalf. I don't want to make this weird, too late. But in case they're paying attention, I'd really like to thank all of the commissioners that I've worked with over the many years. Everyone that I've encountered has been very committed to Ada County, to this mission, and has worked very hard to make sure that Ada County is the best place to live in the world. So the department heads, the electeds here in Ada County, the judges, those across the aisle from us with the prosecutor's office, I count myself very blessed to have worked in this environment for so many years and count many of the people here my friends. So enough said about that, but I just wanted you to know Ada County is a very special place to work. You have a large part of that, and I, for one, don't take it for granted. So thank you. We are currently a county-funded public defense office with the constitutional mandate to provide legal representation to indigent persons charged with crime. We are the largest indigent defense provider in Idaho. We also represent parents at risk of losing their children at the hands of the state, as well as individuals facing a loss of freedom in involuntary mental commitment proceedings. We are budgeted for 74 attorneys, 8 investigators, 2 social workers, and 21 legal staff. We process approximately 15,000 cases a year, or the same as the entire state of North Dakota. Here's our mission statement. As always, our primary focus remains providing our clients with the very best possible customer service. I'd like you to know the state of our office is strong. We have survived COVID and are pretty much back to normal. We're back in person in the office. We're working hard, trying a lot of cases. Staffing is getting back to normal. I've gotten more applicants in the last several weeks than we've had in the last several years, so things are definitely looking up. If a few people that we've made conditional offers to pass the bar in July, we'll pretty much be back to full staffing levels. We best achieve our mission by adherence to our core values, which are contained in our strategic plan that we developed a number of years ago. First and foremost, we are client-centered. Our clients are the reason we are here. We provide tenacious advocacy. We're not here to sit tight, to get along, to collect a paycheck. We're here to fight, and we do that by being present, engaged, prepared, passionate, and resourceful. We strive to create and maintain a culture of excellence, and we promote that culture in many ways, but this is a merit-based system. You can go as far as your work ethic and your skill and your aptitude take you. We provide a robust training and education program. We provide clear communication and expectations. We have meaningful evaluation and review yearly. And we have a strong team of effective and engaged managers, supervisors, and mentors, many of whom are here today. Attracting and retaining high-quality employees requires many things. Competitive pay and benefits are certainly a factor. But what will really create a career-oriented office, and that's what we strive for, is a strong and supportive culture. We had an attorney who we were interviewing a couple of years ago, and in the interview process, we were talking to her about the culture of the office, and she had worked for several firms and a couple of other public service entities. And we talked to her about fit within the office and how important that was to our culture. And we talked about how we're always helping each other, working with each other, in each other's offices, chewing on our cases, working together. We talked about that culture with her. We ultimately ended up offering her a job. She accepted, and she came to work for us. About 3 months after she started, she knocked on my door and kind of tentatively asked if I had a minute. I said, of course, come in. And she said, during the interview process, you and your interview team were talking about the culture in this office, and she said, frankly, I didn't believe you. She said, but I've been here for about 3 months now, and I just want you to know what you said is absolutely true. So it really felt good that we are developing that kind of culture in our office that make people want to stay and work in the Ada County Public Defender's Office. Word is getting out that it's a really nice place to work. We work hard to promote a safe and positive working environment through mentoring, training, collaboration, a culture that encourages asking questions, trying cases, and fighting for positive outcomes for our clients. Everyone in our office knows that their colleagues will have their back and are standing with them in this fight. We have a very tight-knit community. We strive to attract and retain high-quality employees in the ways we've just discussed. by maintaining this reputation for excellence, providing this robust package of competitive salaries and benefits, keeping caseloads manageable. That's extremely important. Where public defense tends to fall apart in jurisdictions across the country are when caseloads are just simply too high and burnout gets high. We have a strong externship program. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Our promotion and recruitment efforts in local and regional law schools is strong and has helped to maintain our staffing. In 2022, these are the approximate numbers that our office opened. 9,200 criminal cases, both felony and misdemeanor, 1,800 mental commitment cases, 800 juvenile cases, 264 civil cases. This year, projections look like this. The dark green are the FY22 numbers. I really can't tell you what that other color is, but those are the projected numbers for FY23, and as you can see, very similar. Nearly 10,000 criminal cases, pretty much the same in terms of commitment cases. We'll talk about that a little bit. Juvenile cases, it's worth mentioning, I was talking to Allison Tate yesterday and today about this. The numbers at the Juvenile Services Division have dropped significantly. I've been talking to my staff about this as well, and I'll let her address that in more detail. But I believe a lot of this has to do with juvenile justice reform and a real culture shift in how we treat kids and how we treat these cases. So those numbers are continuing to drop, and I'm sure Allison will talk about this more in her presentation. If she wasn't going to, she will now. As we know, the jury trial is the linchpin of the criminal justice system. You have to hold the system accountable. A robust level of jury trials is absolutely essential to doing that, protecting people's rights, giving them their day in court, standing up for their constitutional rights. Jury trials were on again and off again in FY22. They have been fully on in FY23. But to give you an idea, in FY22, we still managed to have 107 felony jury trials and 68 misdemeanor jury trials, and innumerable other court trials in child protection and juvenile cases. In FY23, we've had 69 felony jury trials. Number 70 is happening as we speak, and 87 misdemeanor jury trials. So a very high level of trials. This graph gives you an indication of the average cases opened in the last 10 years. The dark color at the bottom are the felonies. The light green in the middle are the misdemeanors. The dark blue is juvenile, and the mental commitment hearings are the portion that are at the very top. We'll talk about those later. Based on this year's projections, we should be pretty close to average in our numbers. The next graph just kind of breaks that apart a little bit. This is showing you felony filings over the course of the last 10 years. You can see we had a surge as we were approaching COVID in 2018 and 19. But then in 2020, you can see the COVID effect and the dip below average. But the average felony case filing in our office that we opened is about 3,200 felony cases a year. Similar graph for misdemeanors. You can see misdemeanors over the last 3 years have actually dipped a little bit. This graph is fairly self-explanatory. Misdemeanors usually stand around 8,000 that we open in our office, but they've dropped fairly significantly in the last couple of years. These are juvenile cases. We talked about this briefly, but as you can see, in 2020 and 21 and 22, there's been a real drop in juvenile case filings. From where I sit, that's a good thing. These are the mental commitment cases that have opened in the last 10 years. We've talked about this before and previously, but mental commitment hearings continue to rise. We have gotten to the point where this is a pressure point in our office, and we have had to designate a full-time person to attend to mental commitment hearings. 15 years ago, you'd get 2 or 3 mental commitment hearings a week. Now it's not uncommon to get 10 or more a day. So it's a significant part of what we do. They have risen dramatically And our projections for this year are that they will continue to rise. I would like to talk a bit about some of the accomplishments in this past year. We continue to achieve really positive, life-altering outcomes for our clients with our 175 jury trials in FY22, 156 jury trials so far in FY23. And of course, the jury trials are, and our success that we achieve in trial are the public and perhaps sexy part of what we do. But there's so much of what we do that you don't really see, that the public really doesn't see, but still have many positive impacts on our clients. The many dispositive motions that we file on behalf of our clients, literally thousands of them, that the vast majority of people never see. The many favorable plea agreements that we negotiate with the prosecutor's office on behalf of our clients. The services provided by our social workers, they have become so indispensable to the holistic approach that we provide to our clients. They help our clients tie into the services in the community that they would otherwise have a difficult time understanding how to proceed with. So our social workers have been absolutely fantastic at helping to develop release plans from the jail so more people can get out of jail, helping them to develop probation plans to help people be successful on probation. We recently had a case. I'll give a shout out to my Chief Administrative Deputy, Christian Collins. He had a case last week where he worked out a very favorable resolution for a client. The client was already on parole in Oregon, and so he had a probation violation because of the crimes committed in Oregon. So they extradited him back to Idaho, and Christian convinced the judge that it was a duplication of resources to keep him in prison here in Idaho or keep him on parole or probation, whatever she wanted to do. It just made more sense to let him go back to Oregon where he was already on parole, already had a parole officer, was already under supervision. The judge agreed with that disposition. Two of our investigators picked that client up from the jail when he was released. We bought him a bus ticket to Oregon, and they helped him get on the bus, and we notified his parole officer that he was on the way. So just one small example of how we kind of take our clients under our wing and help them succeed. It's not just about what we do for them in court. We continue to attract and recruit talented lawyers. I talk about this too much, but it's so fun for me to see. We've hired 2 law clerks recently, attorneys from other firms and other agencies in town. We've successfully recruited attorneys from other states, Oregon, Washington. We have a public defender in Alabama who is moving to Idaho and will be joining our office sometime around September. And as I indicated, we've made some conditional offers to people taking the bar exam in July. If they pass, we should be close to full staffing. Our summer externship has been indispensable to our maintaining our staffing levels, even through the challenges of the workforce in the last several years. As people were leaving the workforce, and I know we've all experienced this across all departments in the county, and all jurisdictions really in the state and the country, as we were losing employees who were just dropping out of the workforce or deciding to go do other things or do jobs that they could work from home, we really struggled to maintain our staffing. And our summer externship program has really been important to help us keep staffing at a level where we can keep those case loads low. In the summer of 2020, we had 5 externs who worked for us for the summer. And they were all from the University of Idaho. And they worked for us for the summer. They graduated in 2021. They passed the bar in 2021, and all 5 of them accepted offers from us and came to work for us. We call them the Fab Five. They not only all worked for us and really bought into our mission and wanted to continue to work for us in their career, but they all also actually look alike. They are all they could be brothers. They're all tall, they have beards. I kid you not. And those 5 attorneys were very important to our office during that period of low staffing. So I'd also like to mention, as part of our recruitment efforts, this is kind of promotion recruitment. It's kind of related. We volunteer, our office volunteers at the Shakespeare Festival every year. They have come to really like us. They say that we're one of the best volunteer crews they have. We volunteered Friday night. We had a crew of about 20 one of my chief deputies, Monica Gray, was kind of in charge of Friday night, and so we proudly donned our public defender swag and with our mighty lion of justice, and we heard many stories from people all evening and in the next day. People would come up to us and thank us for our service, like we were in the Army or something, right? And they would say, it's so important what you do. We appreciate you. We appreciate what you do. So really cool ambassadors for the county in general and for public defense in particular. I can honestly say I have yet to recruit an attorney or a staff member from the Shakespeare Festival, but that's kind of playing the long game. It'll happen someday. To talk about training and education for our attorneys a little bit, we send our attorneys to some of the best skills courses and trial schools in the country. We've had a partnership with years with Maricopa County, and I know in our quarterlies we've talked about this a little bit, but Stephanie Conlon is the training director for Maricopa County in Phoenix, and they have a fantastic training program. And they really took us under their wing when I became chief, and they said, bring your attorneys. You know, we would happily have them join our training. And so we sent our younger attorneys to their trial school. They loved it. We have also sent our more experienced attorneys, our death penalty practitioners, to their death penalty seminars, to their capital voir dire seminars. I've been to all the death penalty trainings, and Maricopa County does it better than anyone. And we have adapted some of those trainings to our office. And in fact, one of my attorneys, Amy Mitchell, is working with Stephanie Conlon from Phoenix, and she's going to come here with some of her crew later this summer, maybe early fall, and help us develop our own boot camp, if you will, our own trial training school, so that we can be more self-reliant, not necessarily have to send our attorneys to Arizona. So I look forward to that event. We're also working with Deja Vishny, who was the training director for many years for the Wisconsin State Public Defender. She's working with our office and with the NACDL grant funding through the NACDL to establish what they're going to call the Mountain States Trial Academy. It will be based in Salt Lake City, but will use resources from the Mountain West, from the Northwest, and it will attract younger, less experienced attorneys to that training school for a week from all over the Northwest, Oregon, Washington, Montana, Idaho, Utah, etc. So we're really looking forward to that. The launch date for that is currently scheduled for the spring of 2024, so that is right around the corner. That will also be very important to our younger, less experienced attorneys to learn how to be a public defender, learn how to try cases. I want to give a shout out to my complex litigation attorneys. Again, many of them are in the courtroom here, in this hearing room today. We don't have any death penalty cases in the office at the moment, but we resolved 2 last year with life sentences that we were able to work out with the state. Currently, we have 9 homicides on my big board, and my attorneys who handle these life sentence cases, these complex cases, from trafficking cases to rape, to murder, to death penalty cases. These attorneys are some of the very best trial attorneys in the state, and they are to be very, very proud of. They do a very difficult job. They do it very, very well. We are, of course, coming into a transition for public defense in Idaho. I know that you're very familiar with this. You've been very involved. It's very exciting. It's a bit scary. Change can be hard. This will be a monumental transition, taking county-based indigent defense and transitioning all of that into one of the largest agencies in the state. As you see on this slide, we will no longer be the Ada County Public Defender's Office after October 1st of 2024, but rather the 4th Judicial District Regional Office comprised of Ada, Elmore, Boise, and Valley counties. This next slide kind of shows you what this is going to look like. One state public defender will oversee all of this, appointed by the governor. We'll have 7 regional or district public defenders in each of the regions that will mirror the 7 judicial districts in Idaho, and this slide shows you what those will look like. Our goals moving forward are pretty straightforward as we enter this transition. We need to do what we can to see that this is a successful launch of this new system. We need the right leadership in place, need a strong transition team. And me and my office will do everything we can to help in that transition. We need to continue to advocate every day, all day, for a robust level of funding. We really need to be intentional about retaining our current employees. This change can be scary for people as we go from being county employees to state employees and what that means. And so I have messaged to my attorneys as often as I possibly can. The state of Idaho needs more public defenders. Like most of the states around the country, they are in short supply. And so if you're a public defender today, you're going to be a public defender tomorrow under the state system. And with that in mind, part of my goal in the coming months is to be very intentional about the continuity of our operations. We need to make sure that we protect our mission to our clients. They come first, always. The high level of service that they receive needs to continue uninterrupted. We need to make sure that we continue to serve our clients and also to take care of those that serve our clients. It's very important to take care of our attorneys and staff and that they're protected. We have a transition plan here in Ada County for when that will happen. I've talked to you about that. I've shared that with Sandra Barrios and Judge Hippler. I believe they approve of the plan. I'm confident that we have the right people in the right place to successfully maintain our operations throughout this transition. So getting to the budget, this is our public defender budget history. It's an historical view of our county-funded portion of the budget over the past 7 years. The darker color is the A budget. The lighter color is the B budget. The B budget really doesn't change much. It pretty much stays the same. The vast majority of our cost is personnel. This is that budget history, but with the Indigent Defense Grant portion added to it. For FY24, we have submitted a grant application for a little more than $1.4 million to be added to our county portion of our budget. That also will be the last grant application that we'll have to submit. So I've requested 2 promotion reclassifications in this proposed budget that reflect changes that we've had to make in personnel in this coming year. I've requested 16 market adjustments in an effort to continue to maintain the valuable employees that we have. And what you may do with a 5% COLA merit mix will really be helpful in that regard. These personnel changes are all made within our budgetary appropriation. We're not asking for additional funds for that. We are submitting a flat budget as requested. We have not requested any additional funding from Ada County outside of our appropriation. As I indicated, we're budgeted for 74 attorneys. We have approximately 68 attorneys right now. We have a few that are starting in the next couple of months, and then of course pending the bar exam. So our operations have not been affected. Caseloads have not been significantly impacted by the 68 attorneys that we have, but we're budgeted for 74, and we have not been able in the last couple of years to fill those positions. Like I say, that has changed, and we're cautiously optimistic we'll be at full staffing hopefully around September of this year. The real pressure point that I wanted to talk about is the increase in costs related to professional services. Those costs have skyrocketed over the last couple of years. That line item, professional services, goes to pay for experts, for evaluations, and for Idaho Criminal Rule 12.2 allocations. Idaho Criminal Rule 12.2 is a mechanism by which private attorneys can get experts and investigators and pay for those out of my budget. And those demands have been increasing tremendously as well. The judges are the gatekeeper of those funds, and they do a good job, but the demand is relentless. This is another situation where 15 years ago we'd get 1 or 2 of these a year. these requests by private attorneys to fund their experts or their investigators for a privately retained client. We're getting to the point where now sometimes we'll get 2 or 3 of these requests a month. So it's an increasing need, it's an increasing cost, and it directly impacts my budget. Last year, for the very first time since I've been chief, we ran out of money in that line item, so that judges, I would have to show up at the hearings and advise the judge, you can grant this request. It's appropriate in form and content, and you can grant this request. But if you do, there will be a client, an indigent client in my office that won't get that service because I'll have to give it to this private attorney. And I hated doing that, but that was the reality of our situation. And so what the judges did in those circumstances was they would ask the private attorney to ask their expert or their investigator to wait to submit their bill until October 1st, when the new fiscal kicked in, and they all agreed to do that. But of course, we took a huge hit October 1st, and so we were already in the hole in that funding for FY23. So this is an expenditure line item that's only going to increase experts and evaluations. The way we practice today is just simply different than we did years ago, and so these types of expenses are going to continue to go up. So we're allocating an additional $150,000 to this line item, but we're moving money around in our budget to accomplish that from the Indigent Defense Grant. So we're not, again, asking for additional monies from the county. And so with that, my presentation is completed, and I would stand for questions.
Okay, thank you. I think it should be noted that at least my support for public defense and for our prosecutor is indicative of my commitment to justice. Because I think that's what it takes to administer justice properly, is a strong prosecutor and an equally strong public defender. Is that way I think we get justice out of the system, and I think that's one of the benefits of living in 80 counties. I think we do have a strong system of justice. And now, obviously, periodically something falls through the cracks, but that's just human nature. You're going to see that once in a while on both sides. But if we can administer justice in the long term, that's a good thing. And I just hope that the state will continue in that vein of once this gets turned over to the state of Idaho, which is. And it's really not going to be this. It's a hybrid system. I don't think there's another one like this in the United States. I mean, some of us worked on that, and I think we're going to maintain some local control. And this may be your last budget presentation, but if you stay on as a public defender, you'll be in front of the county commission once a year, and the other 3 commissioners as well, as I recall. And it'll be the magistrate commission that will be selecting the new public defender.
That's correct,
For the district.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah. The hybrid system is unique. You've worked on it, so you're very knowledgeable about it. It's not something that's been done anywhere else in the country, and the regional public defenders will be hired at the local level, and hiring, firing, negotiation of contracts will be done at the local level. So that's a really good thing.
Well, and that was one of our main objectives, is because I think at the local level, things get done at local level, and I think you get a better result. Anyway, are there any questions from the commission?
No questions, but just a thank you to you, Tony, for in my my previous life, one of my previous lives, public defender was one of my focuses, and I appreciate all the work you have done, not only for Ada County, but for the state in terms of the example that we provide for the rest of the state. And that training mechanism that you have with Arizona was interesting, because I didn't know about that until you just said that. That's an interesting hybrid. That's an example of how we do things here, and recognized not only here but other places. And your legislative work, you were deeply involved. We appreciated all the work that you did in making that happen, what happened, and I'm sure you'll be involved, as the chairman said, in the future, in some way, shape, or form. You will always be involved in this. It's one of your passions as well, and we appreciate that passion that you have yourself personally, as well as you've conveyed to Ada County, because it's an important for our community to have that, as the chairman said. So thank you, and thank you for the budget that you presented in terms of following some of the recommendations that we gave to you, and so we appreciate that as well. So thank you, and we will, I'm sure, be working with you.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Commissioner Daly.
Yes, do you have any questions, Commissioner Davidson?
Well, just following up on the expert witness fees discussion there, it is a pretty big number, $375,000. Is that what it ended up being last year with the additional supplementals, or is it a higher request this year?
Yeah, so we endeavored to shift money around and put enough money in so that we would have enough money for the coming year. So we're, in essence, extrapolating what we anticipate the cost to be in FY24 based on what they were in FY22 and what we anticipate they will be in 2023, if that answers your question. It's a bit of, it's a bit of guesswork, right? Because those costs can ebb and flow. What we can say is through historical trends, we can see an increasing demand in requests for mental health evaluations, an increasing demand in mental competency evaluations. As you've seen, there's a correlation between the number of mental commitments and the number of mental health evaluations and commitment evaluations, competency evaluations that we get asked to pay for. So those costs continue to rise, and from where I sit, I don't see any indication that those costs are going to go down. So we'd rather err on the side of having a little bit too much rather than too little. I do not ever want to have to come to the board hat in hand saying I ran out of money. So we're being prudent in our efforts to make sure that doesn't happen.
How many experts do we end up getting from out of state versus in-state?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have, we're very intentional about utilizing experts within the state because obviously that's much more cost effective. There are times when the complexity of a case, the particular issues in a case just make it so that there isn't that particular type of expert in the state. Forensic pathology is a good example. There just aren't that many forensic pathologists in the country, frankly. And the ones that are here typically work for the state, right? So when we're handling a homicide case and we need independent review of evidence, we typically need to get a forensic pathologist from outside of the state to review the findings of the in-state forensic pathologist who's been working for the coroner and the prosecutor's office. And typically, we've been able to find individuals like that that are pretty close in King County, for instance, Multnomah County, in the Portland area, or in California. So we avoid, going to New Jersey to bring in experts, but we're intentional about trying to find first and foremost qualified individuals, but second, individuals that are as close to Idaho as possible to minimize that expense.
We've got you down for $15,000 for mileage reimbursement. Where's most of the mileage being incurred?
Yeah, most of the mileage is being incurred by our attorneys and our investigators, trips back and forth to the jail, to the penitentiary. We do that a lot, obviously. Our investigators also do a lot of traveling for their investigations, interviewing witnesses, reviewing crime scenes, taking photographs. Our investigators will also deliver subpoenas. So between the 74 attorneys and the 8 investigators, we do a lot of travel.
Now, I know about conflict counsel. I see we also have a line for conflict investigation. So what is that? Do we have to bring in conflict investigators to work with conflict counsel, or do we use in-house investigators and just call them conflict investigators? How does that work?
Yeah, Commissioner Davidson, Mr. Chairman, we have conflict attorneys on contract, so when we have an internal conflict in our office, we give it to outside counsel. And so we have to be very careful not to interfere with or meddle in any way with how our conflict attorneys, our private attorneys in the community that handle our conflict cases, handle their cases. We can't really interfere with that. So typically what happens in answer to your question is we conflict the case. If that case is deemed to require investigative services by the attorney it's conflicted to, it's their responsibility to find an investigator and retain that investigator's services. As a county, we pay $50 an hour for investigative services for conflict investigators. And so they can retain whoever they want, but we have a set amount that we pay, and we won't pay more than that. That's our rate that we've established. So we pay the same amount no matter what investigator, no matter which investigator it is they choose to retain. But they're not in-house. They're not our employees. They're private investigators in the community.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
All right. You are fully staffed at the 74 when the 4 that you have getting ready to, they're passing their bar and stuff?
We are. I can, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I can tell you that 74 attorneys is a very strong staffing level for us. We have a dedicated research and writing attorney. We have a dedicated supervisor of our magistrate division who does not handle a caseload, but full-time supervisory duties. And we're going back to a dedicated person to handle commitments as soon as we get more people on board. So I do not need more than 74 attorneys currently.
Okay. Now, last year, because of various circumstances, there was a backlog in trials. Has that been resolved? Do you think you're getting up to speed?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, yes. The question is an interesting one because we've been accused by the Supreme Court of trying too many cases. And I don't know if that's a thing, but I think there was some concern that maybe we were overloaded with trials as we tried to get through this surge. I can tell you, Judge Hippler, the ADJ, Sandra Barrios, the TCA, were fantastic partners in this. The prosecutor's office, we met during COVID. We had a group of us that met weekly to plan out our trials, to schedule our trials, to look at cases that were running up against speedy trial issues, that had evidentiary issues, that had witness issues, and we worked very collaboratively to prioritize trials. And we were able to just really pound through a tremendous surge in that COVID backup. And I can tell you that it did not compromise the level of representation at all. We were ready, we were prepared, we were just doing a lot of trials. So I think it kind of had the optic of that maybe it was being rushed or that maybe it might compromise the quality of service. That's absolutely not the case. With the ADJ, the TCA, the prosecutor's office, we all were very intentional about sitting down and deciding which cases were really a priority. And if a case came up where I said, look, we're just not ready on this case, it was passed and deferred to another time. So we were very considerate of each other's needs. If the state didn't have a witness and said, look, we just can't do this now, then we moved on to the next case. So it was frankly one of the great success stories of the county and the criminal justice system to be able to work through that number of cases in the criminal justice system here in Ada County. Everyone was absolutely fantastic to work with. And we did a lot of trials for about a year and a half, but we are, to be more pointed in answer to your question, we are past that surge.
Past the surge and you're pretty much caught up.
That is correct.
Which this is just anecdotal, but it seems to me that also once you get caught up, that is more motivation to settle by some defendants. Because if they don't have to go to trial, why would they want to settle?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, your point is a good one in that one of the, and we've talked about this, one of the pressures that is exerted on a criminal defendant is being stuck in jail, right? And so during COVID, if they couldn't bond out, if they couldn't get out of custody and they were looking at not having a trial for a year and a half, many of them would just capitulate and just say, look, I'm just done. I just want out. I on my way, whatever. And so it was an unfortunate impact. And I can tell you, my attorney's actively engaged in a very, very kind of aggressive manner with the courts and with the prosecutors to try and help get our clients out of custody. But if that didn't work and they remained in custody, our advice was do not make this potentially life-altering decision based on just wanting to get out of jail. This decision is too important for that. So we often had to have those very difficult conversations with our clients where the practical reality is you're not going to get a trial for about 1.5 years, and you are stuck in jail, and we've done everything we can to get you out, but it's not going to happen. And so, unfortunately, there are some defendants who chose to accept a resolution rather than just stay in jail for the next 1.5 years waiting trial.
And once again, that would be the benefit of getting caught up and working with the courts and with the prosecution and getting that system resolved so that isn't an issue with your clients.
It's absolutely true, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Now, the other question, on your budget here, how much of your budget, you're still getting some grants from the Public Defender's Office, correct?
From the Public Defense Commission?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. How much of your budget is the Public Defense Commission monies?
$1.4 million. And with that money, I fund 7 attorneys, an investigator, and I believe it's 2 legal assistants. So we fund 10 people with that grant money. We also fund a fair bit of our travel and training, those skills courses and trial schools that I talked about with that money. We also fund some operational expenses, new computers, office equipment, things like that. And we also use that money for some conflict costs as well as experts and evaluations. And so that's how we're kind of moving money around to help make up for the increase in costs for the evaluations and the experts.
Yeah. Well, and it should be noted that last year and again this year, the state is granting some monies to pay for the public defense.
Yes.
I'm not exactly sure how much that is at this point, but I guess we'll figure that out as we go along. But anyway, well, I don't have any more questions. Again, I want to thank you. I think your office is doing a great job for the citizens of this community, and we owe you a debt of gratitude. And thank you for your service. And I know that you don't know for sure what's going to happen, and I don't think anybody does just yet because it's all in flux. When you do a new system like we're going to be doing, there's going to be some changes. Anyway, thank you for your service.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Done.
Just in follow-up for what the chairman just said in terms of the transition, because Ada County obviously is the primary public defender in this new District 4. How do you envision, back to the funding, that the legislature gave for transition and personnel, all of that? Do you think we're going to have to address some of that at the county level, or do you think the state's going to step up to the plate? Is adequate funding available, I guess, and personnel in that transition process, in your vision?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Daley, I believe that the state will be fully 100% responsible for funding of indigent defense moving forward. I know that the vision and the plan is that the counties are out. Right? So as we've discussed, the commissioners will still have a role, the magistrate commission will still have a role in hiring the regional public defender, but the costs, other than housing public defenders for the next 5 years until 2029, other than that kind of operational cost, all of the transition costs, all of public defense should be, and it's anticipated will be funded at the state level. What I believe is going to be necessary is once the state, certain dominoes need to fall, right? Once the state public defender is in position, that state public defender then needs to work with a transition team. That transition team would then put together what the state public defender staff needs to look like. You're going to have a finance team. You're going to have an HR team. There are significant human resources decisions that need to be made, not least of which are sick time, vacation time. How do you transition these employees from county to state employees? What happens to their vacation and their sick time? What happens to their benefits? There are many of those types of questions that continue to need to be worked out. The seminal issue, to your point, is that the state public defender, along with the transition team, and then along with the regional public defenders who are selected by, hopefully by July of 2024, will all have to dig into exactly how much money has been expended in public defense. I am very, very familiar with the amount of money we spend in Ada County. I couldn't tell you what Elmore County, well, I can because I've been digging lately, but that is one of the things that we're going to have to figure out. In all the counties, how much money has been expended and how much money is needed. And then we'll have to take that back to the legislature, right, to JFAC and say, this is the amount of money that we need, and these are our projections. The governor's office has been very clear about this, and I think it's correct. And various legislators that we were working with on this, we're not really going to know the true cost until we get into it. But we can make projections. How much was spent on public defense in Elmore County, Valley County, Boise County, and Ada County for this 4th Judicial District in FY23? That should give us a really good idea of a ballpark figure for how much the 4th Judicial District will need for public defense. We'll have to emulate that effort in each of the 7 judicial districts. But that number is achievable, but will have to continue to be tweaked as we move through this process.
Thank you.
Yes, well, and that's, and of course, the state knows that, and that's how they developed how much money each county will get is based on historical cost of the public defense in that county, but that's why it's a little behind for us because it's like 2 years old, the numbers that they're using,
Right.
I believe. Anyway, any other questions before we go on?
I'll give you one last one. Maybe I'll put you on the spot a little bit, but as part of the criminal justice system, you have to work with a lot of other departments or agencies. Do you see anything in any other department, be it, the courts, sheriffs, prosecutors, clerks, that they need to reform that would limit the cost to your office?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Davidson. What I can say is that that question strikes to the heart of criminal justice, right? The prosecutors on the other side of the aisle, they do a very important and necessary job. They come from almost a completely different philosophical standpoint than we do, right? And this is an adversarial system. And so those adversaries do their job, and the cases that can be resolved get resolved, and the cases that have to be tried get tried. And that's the way the system should work. I can say, in some jurisdictions that I've been to, that I've traveled to, there's a real toxicity between the prosecutor's office and the public defender's office or the defense community. And nothing good gets accomplished. And a lot more cases go to trial because they just can't agree on anything. And that does not work very well, and it can really clog up and bog down the criminal justice system. I can say here with confidence, in the many, many years I've been here, the prosecutor's office, I may disagree with them all day long, but they are very, very good to work with. And we work out the cases we can resolve, and we try the cases that we have to try, and we walk away at the end of the day still having respect for each other and respect for the roles that we play. In terms of the other departments, the clerk's office has been nothing but fantastic to work with. They make our jobs easier any given time. My office administrator, Pam Duncan, and we're dealing with an issue right now about a foreign subpoena. What do you do with that? Well, Pam goes and talks to the clerk's office and a supervisor over there. What do I do? How do I do that? What do we need to do to make this happen? So they're very, very good to work with. The sheriff, I'll give a shout out to the sheriff. It's started with Sheriff Bartlett and has continued with Sheriff Clifford. They've been fantastic stakeholders with us. They have helped us set up our CHIP visit program, which gives us easier and faster and better access to our clients at the jail. They helped us work out our video visit process, and I know Steve O'Meara talked about that a little bit. That has saved a tremendous amount of time and money and resources in terms of attorney-client visits. We still need to visit our clients face-to-face, but there are many ministerial or administrative kind of conversations we can have with our clients that would only take 10 or 15 minutes, and we don't need to spend an hour or 2 hours going to the jail to do that. We can just call them up on a video visit. So all of the department heads and the electeds in the county are very good stakeholders with us in the criminal justice system. I cannot point to any one area where I would say this really needs to be changed. And that's just my straightforward, kind of transparent answer to you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Good job. All right.
Mr. Chairman, to answer your question, I think you had asked about how much the state was funding towards public defense next year. We have projected $10.3 million from the state, and they have $1 million worth of grant, and then we would offset the difference with $3 million of fund balance. Since they won't be with us going forward, we'll just use one-time money to fund them this last year instead of ongoing. So that's how we're going to fund the public defender budget.
I think this year we're supposed to reduce the levy amount, aren't we, as well?
Right, there's no
Yeah,
property
that's right,
taxes
yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right, yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for looking that up. I knew it was a number, but I just didn't know what the number was.
All right. The coroner is one of 7 constitutionally elected offices within Ada County. The office is currently held by Richard Riffle. It is the duty of the coroner to investigate, determine, and certify the cause and manner of death for cases which fall under the jurisdiction of the coroner's office, including death resulting from natural causes, accidental death, homicide, and suicide. In addition, Ada County provides pathology services to the other Idaho counties to ensure standards are met statewide. The Ada County Coroner's Office has 4 distinct divisions: administration, pathology, forensics, and investigations. These 4 divisions complement and support one another in order to provide the absolute highest standards to the public they are called to serve. The office is accredited with the National Association of Medical Examiners and with the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners. The members of this office take pride in their service to the community and were instrumental in the development of the coroner's office mission, vision, and value statements, which are: mission, to provide services with compassion, integrity, and respect. Vision, the Ada County Coroner's Office will aim to provide the highest standard in medical legal death investigation, forensic analysis, pathology services, and administration. The office will continue to seek new ways to increase quality of work while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Values, family, striving to maintain the well-being of our family by balancing personal and professional goals. Respect, serving our community with intentional care, concern, and consideration of their needs. Integrity, to serve with steadfast consistency and uncompromising adherence to moral and ethical principles. Compassion, serving with awareness and sensitivity to the emotional needs of others. And teamwork, interdependent divisions working collectively towards shared and common objectives. Before you is the coroner's office budget. They are a department within the current expense fund, part of the 3% cap on property taxes. Budget for FY24 is submitted at $4,647,587, $219,192 over their appropriation total. There are 2 personnel supplementals, one for a new position for a receptionist at $60,881, and special salary adjustments and reclassifications, $74,686. There are 5 supplementals on the operating and capital side. Equipment purchases, $12,000, which is a revenue offset from ICOM revenue. The ossuary memorial for the public administrator and abandoned remains, $21,000, that's one time. Fencing to secure the warehouse storage at Morris Hill, $6,357 one time. Body bag purchase, $42,000 ongoing costs. And 3 camera replacements, one time $4,800. Below you can see the budget to actual from 19 to 24 and the number of employees at 33. At this point, it's my pleasure to introduce Coroner Rich Riffle, who will present the coroner's budget.
I got to follow that.
Yes. Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your
well-
time and energy on this.
Welcome to our hearing and welcome to the budget. And congratulations. This has been a new 4 or 5 months for you, 5.5 months, because you took the job over. And it's a transition, and there's a lot going on in the office in terms of building a new facility, et cetera. And from my observation, you've done an excellent job in your transition and getting your arms around the office.
Thank you so much for that, sir. Appreciate it so much. I guess I just dive right in, I suppose. I was advised to keep this presentation short and sweet. As you know, I asked for only 15 minutes as opposed to 30. So I'm going to ask you guys to listen fast. Here we go.
To the degree we're skilled at that, we will.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to take it easy on you. In developing the budget, the format for like the challenges doing this, we have the same problem as everybody else, and that's inflation. We don't control the costs of the equipment. We don't control the supplies chains, nor do we control the population growth. So some of the things that we've experienced, even in my short period of time here, is meeting those challenges without breaking the bank, so to speak. In the past 5 fiscal years, we've seen a 25% increase in our caseload, and using that is just an indicator of everything that follows, the autopsies, all the work that follows, all the other stuff that we do other than just cases. One of my first official acts was to request an out-of-county pathology agreement audit to make sure that we were charging our client counties appropriately. As a result of that, we're proposing an increase. It would be the 4th increase in 20 years. We were also able to eliminate some fees that were associated that have been billed in the past. For example, there was a fee for autopsy. Nobody can tell me what that meant, so in the audit, everything was built into the numbers that they produced, so we said, why charge them if we don't have to? It keeps the overall cost to our clients down to a minimum. Overall increase that we're proposing is from a total invoice of $2,000 to a total invoice of $2,300 per full autopsy. And based on the audit that was conducted, that includes that portion of the new building. So all that cost is built in. So I'm pretty confident and comfortable with that proposed increase. Still, we can't predict the use of our services. We can only provide some form of educated guess. Out-of-county autopsies are up 24% over the past full fiscal year. Can't tell you why. There's no way to determine that. More likely than not, it's due to the large population growth statewide, not just here. But if this fiscal year continues to go as it's going, it's projected that we'll be up by an increase of 28% over last year's fiscal year, just on out-of-county autopsies. I know it's been asked in the past, the Eastern facility, we'll call it, what the impact might be. There's absolutely no way to tell. The information I'm getting is, well, I'm not even confident it's going to open. And if it does, the impact on our services, we may not feel that impact for a couple of years. So it's, for budget purposes, it's like, why do I even try? So until that opens and until we see some real numbers coming from the eastern state side, I'm just going to kind of move on. So with that, total budget request that I'm asking for this year, even after the nice allotment we got for operating expense allocations of $11,513, I'm requesting an overall budget of just over 1% increase. The allocation is that we've already received was applied to our two most heavily used budget lines, which is toxicology and morgue supplies. But still, there's a shortfall in the morgue supply budget line. Again, that goes back to nobody can predict the supply chains, that kind of stuff. You know, our body bags, for example, went up, if I remember correctly, like over 100% just within the past year. We're starting to see that come back down a little bit, but we don't know what the market's going to do. So in addition to the funds that we've allocated to that budget line that's already been approved through the allocation, we'll be asking for a little bit more. But, so if I may, I'm just going to go through these real quick. On the supplemental budget request, operating, we're asking for 3 new cameras, $4,800. This is a one-time purchase to replace old and outdated cameras. There can't be the click and shoots or the cell phones. They need to be the single lens reflex. They have a higher resolution. They can take better forensic photos. And if there's a possibility that I might be able to find funding in this current budget year to cover the request for 48, I just don't know, because we still have too much of the year left for me to figure out what I can move around and what I can't. The next one is we're requesting $6,357 one-time purchase for security fencing inside the current facility that'll be used for our mass fatality, primarily for mass fatality supply storage. It'll also be used for low-use office and morgue supplies as needed, because there'd be enough room there. But there's also, again, with this one, there's a possibility I might be able to find funding for that as well during this current budget year. But in case I can't, I'm asking for it in the supplemental. Am I going too fast? No, I feel like I am though, but okay. Okay, on this next one, please relax. That's a picture of a body. That's a movie prop. It's not a real body. Okay. We're requesting $42,000 increase in continuing budget line item in addition to the previously mentioned allotment application increase. The costs again are due to supply uncertainties mostly. Ada County's population is growing with that grows our needs for services grow with it. Got to keep in mind, it's not just our residents that we're dealing with. We have a lot of tourism coming in. People like to go out and enjoy our forested areas and those kind of things. So we do have the influx of internal or external population coming in. We also have the only trauma center in the region, so a lot of people that we get people, not a lot. We get people from even out of state that they've flight in. And so those might land on our caseload. So it's not just Ada County residents that we're talking about with our caseloads. We also have, as you guys well know, the new facility has 8 autopsy stations as opposed to the 2 that we currently have. And at this time, we need to make sure that all those stations are ready to be used at any time. So there's an increase of morgue supplies just in that alone. Not that all 8 will be used at the same time. Please, let's not do that. We only have 3 doctors, for crying out loud. But the stations have to be equipped and ready to go at any time. The next one is we're requesting a $21,000 one-time fund for an ossuary, which is to be used for the final interment of the public administration related cremations. Those are the folks that are either abandoned or they can't afford it, the indigent services. With this particular item, I had originally thought of asking a couple of other departments to join in, and then I realized, well, it's all coming from the same pot, so I might as well just do the presentation. I'll hit those other guys up later to help with partnering on that particular issue. Our current crypt at the funeral home is at capacity. So the funeral home tells us that with the plan that they have provided, we can have a final resting place for these folks, which will last 60 to 120 years. So I think, you cost that out, that's not a lot per year, so. Okay. Just dive right into personnel, the personnel budget request. Again, I'm requesting only one full-time administrative type position. I know you guys have put out the word not to add to the personnel. My suggestion would be is to ask you guys to consider the possibility of looking at open vacancies throughout the county, and if they haven't been filled in X number of years, transfer that over to us because we could use it today. I know that's going to really upset some other people, but that's the way it goes. This office has been historically prudent in asking for personnel. We've only acquired one new position per year for the past 5 years. And so I think we're right on track with that. This new full-time receptionist position has a loaded cost of $60,881. And it's due to the increased workload of our current staff, coverage during vacations, sick time, and the rotating, somebody leaves, somebody else has to fill in for them, and so we got to cross-train, and our workload is enough that this position would help ease that pressure off of the entire division. Administrative specialists ensure that office meets all legal reporting requirements of industry accreditation requirements, manages the businesses of the coroner's office, and supports all other divisions of the office. Our stability in operations is critical at all times. Staffing levels are at capacity. And again, this office has been historically prudent about not inflating the staffing levels that we have. And I will continue that practice. But I assure you, if I ask for somebody, it's not because it's bloated, it's because it's needed. I just got to figure out how to convince you to give it to me. We're requesting at this time just under $105,000 for wage adjustments related to a market and increased employee retention, specifically to death investigators and our forensic technicians. When I came into this office knowing that the employees, especially in those two divisions, in the market were behind in the market, and that retention itself is an issue. For example, of our 5 forensic technicians, 4 have been here less than 2 years. In the investigations of the 12, 5 have been here less than 2 years. So there's a big turnover in both of those. And I feel that with this, the market adjustments and the career pathing that we've put in place, working very closely with HR, they came in and did a job audit for us. And between all of us, we came up with a structure that we think will help retain the employees that we have, and maybe draw some, longer standing employees in the future. One of the things I'd like to point out is that it's a lot easier and more cost-effective to keep an employee than it is to get one. I think we all know that through experience in our lifetimes. But in our office, like for example, the investigations, you can't get a degree in forensic medical legal death investigations. Right now, I don't think that's offered anywhere. You just pick it up through training online, or you go to a class somewhere to get some of that. But most of that training is on the job. And to be a darn good investigator takes about anywhere from a year to 18 months before they take the certification test. So we have to contend with that. And like I say, the higher quality we can get and the more that at least bring them up to the market as far as wages go, we can work on the retention of that. The next one is a revenue offset, Idaho College of Osteopathic Medicine, ICOM, as it's currently known. We've requested a revenue offset of $12,000 a year, which will, this does not have tax dollars associated with it at all. We get money from the college. They pay us $1,000 per student, and there's usually 12 per year. So we worked out a deal with them. They'll just pay us up front. We can use that money to purchase training supplies, maybe some equipment to help aid in the function of that program. One of the things that we're looking at is a multi-viewer microscope system, which you can see on your screen there. Same type of thing. Multiple people can look at the same slide. It's just a lot easier to do training for those folks. How'd I do? I didn't have a whole lot, obviously. Like I said, I was advised to keep it short and simple. We're not doing a whole lot of moving with the current funds, everything, the line items. I think we're right there. And of course, a lot of it is still, I don't know what I don't know yet. So next year we might have a totally different conversation. But for now, I think the request, I think, is very reasonable. And hopefully you agree.
Okay.
Questions, comments?
Yes, I would have a couple of questions. How much is your in-county autopsies up this year?
I would have to look that up. And unfortunately, I don't have that with me. Hang on, maybe I do.
Well, I'm just asking the question because you indicated that your out-of-county autopsies were up about 25, 26%, something like that?
Correct.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have that right here.
Oh, okay.
In-county, Ada County autopsies are up from last year 70%. Well, they're up 3% compared to the fiscal year. So, but they're at 70% compared to, and then 82% of the past 6, which includes COVID.
Right. Well, and I'm wondering if I know the out-of-county autopsies, our coroner's office took in-county autopsies as a priority, and sometimes we had to turn down out-of-county autopsies because we were booked up with our own
Right.
in Ada County. I wonder if that has made a difference over
I don't know if that's played a difference. Since I've been here, there's been a fabulous program in place where the out-of-counties are actually scheduled, mostly on Tuesdays, Thursdays. We don't schedule them on Mondays because it's a heavy day for us. So if there are conflicts, we're able to work around that pretty easily. Like if we have an out-of-county scheduled and there's a homicide on ours, we work with those other agencies. And so far, I have not heard of anybody being turned away because of a conflict of scheduling an autopsy.
Well, and I wouldn't think there would be because we're not backed up like we were
Right.
a year ago or a year and a half ago and so
Agree.
forth. And so that would be
Yeah.
that would be the reason. Another reason I think that is most of the out-of-county coroners, they're only given like some small counties, they can say, okay, you can have one autopsy. And so if they have reason to do another one, they have to get special permission from
Right.
the board, because that's
Yeah.
what they build into their budget is 1, maybe 2 autopsies. I mean, and so
Yeah, we're definitely not getting in my humble opinion, we're not getting all that we should, to be honest with you, in the interest of the industry. But they're being very selective of what they send to us. And I am keenly aware that even the rates that we charge, I mean, that's twice some of these guys' entire annual budget. I get that, but we can't give them the farm. So
Yeah.
We still got to cover our.
And most of a lot of the out of county coroners, they have other jobs. I mean, it's not
Right.
a full-time gig for most of them. And,
Right.
and that's the county commissioners, they say, well, we'll budget you for 2 autopsies this year and hopefully that'll do it. Then they have to go back to the table for,
Right.
if they get a requirement for a 3rd or a 4th one, then they have to go back to the
Yeah,
commissioners.
I don't envy their position at all, so,
Yeah, it's a difficult position.
but, with the new building, I'm hoping that there, some efficiencies, will recognize some of those efficiencies. I don't know, and I'm not gonna predict, but I'm hoping that we can maybe, even if it's by $100, knock the price down for the out of counties, next year.
Yeah.
I don't know, but every bit helps them, and that's what I'd like to do, so.
Okay, sure. Is there any other questions from the commission? Mr. Davidson?
So, let's see. So you're asking for $6,000 for fencing on the current location. I guess my question would be, we've had that facility for over 20 years. Why do we need fencing on it now?
When we vacate the building, pretty much, my understanding is there's gonna be an influx of people wanting space. I know the sheriff's office already has some storage space out there. Operations wants to use a lot of that space. What happens to the offices, I don't know. But the secured location, we're not removing our current morgue. That'll stay in place as a backup. And then we were able to retain some of that real estate as a storage for our, like I say, our mass fatalities, the big stuff, the palletized stuff, and some of those other things.
Almost sounds like that maybe should go through operations instead of your budget.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I was just told what they asked for.
All right.
On the ossuary, so which funeral home are we working with on that?
Cloverdale.
And so we provide do you call it a monument or whatever it is, but are they like donating the land for us to put it on?
They have
How does that work?
suggested, their proposal is that they will donate the land, the landscaping, the maintenance, and then the county would provide the monument itself.
Okay. Well, that's pretty gracious of them.
Yeah, it was very nice of them. And it's in a prime spot too. It's just as you drive in, it's right there, so.
And that's for indigent
Correct.
people who can't afford their own cremation or burial.
Correct.
Okay. So then you've requested new administrative secretary, I guess. Now, if you have 2 of them, are they still going to be full-time jobs? It sort of sounded like this one is the fill-in one when the other one needs to leave, but
Well, we'll have specific duties for that person. I mean, they'll have their own assignment. But when somebody leaves with cross-training, right now we got 4, and when one leaves, I'm down 25% of administrative staff. So we have one currently out, like, for example, on maternity leave. Well, somebody's got to pick up her workload, which, of course, as we all know, if you're taking someone else's workload, what's happening to your own? So that's only part of the reason for that position, is to help relieve that. And then the other parts are, there's just a lot of stuff coming in. So we might reassign something from somebody's desk and put it over here. Unfortunately, the person that would know all that's Tanya, because it's her position that she wants, so.
you're thinking they'll all still be full-time.
Correct.
Yeah. There's
Right.
enough work to
Right.
go around.
Right, and with the new facility coming in, that's the other part as well. Right now, we have no place for the public to like the grieving family to come in and view the body. It's those types of things. It's just not you can't do it where we are. The new building has public rooms specifically designed for family bereavement, the viewing of the bodies. Well, that takes somebody's got to be able to help the family do that. That might fall on that position to help ease that a little bit as well. So,
as far as the new building goes, I mean, having that brand new building, new offices, that's got to help retention. I mean, if we're looking
We're
at other
hoping.
things other than salary increases. but
Exactly,
I
exactly.
think that could go a long ways.
Can go a long way. We're also looking at, it's my philosophy, if I can't promote you, I do things to broaden your expertise. So like if someone has a desire to take on a specific education path related to investigations or forensics, yeah, if we can adjust your schedule to help you do that, I'll do what I can to help folks broaden their expertise.
And I think it's great. We're looking for, other ways to earn some revenue, like with the school, and I'm sure you'll be looking for other opportunities.
Yes, I am.
We should probably look at maybe through the Idaho Association of Counties doing coroner's school or coroner's continuing education for all the other
Yep,
counties.
it's on my list. Yep, we got a nice classroom there. That's already brewing in here of what can I do to help the state industry raise the bar? And that's exactly one of them is regional training here.
All right, thank you.
Do you have any questions, Commissioner?
A couple of questions. How was the new building in relation to the items you have for equipment, like scale calibration, all of that kind of thing that's in this budget for next year, and you're going to be moving into a new building? How does that dovetail with the, like, you have, what do you call it, office furniture, that sort of thing? How does that fit with the new building in terms of the budgets?
I have no idea.
Because you have line items for office furniture.
Oh, I see, I see, I see, I see.
Maintenance,
I see where
computer
you're going with that.
maintenance, software.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I haven't done that deep of a dive on how that would affect those. I don't think our current line item budget is for office furniture is all that much that I remember. But that might be something I just look at and I can transfer over to something else. But as far as the transition into the new building, I've never gone into a new building, so I don't know how that's going to affect me, and I apologize for not having a more substantial answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Good luck. We'll be
Thank you.
looking forward to working with you. Thank you. Okay.
Like to take a break, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, let's take a 10-minute break. We're on the record again.
Right. Okay. Get to the right spot here. All right, Emergency Medical Services, or EMS, also known as the Ada County Paramedics. ACP is headed by Chief Sean Rain and is the sole provider of 911 emergency medical services for the citizens of Boise, Garden City, Meridian, Eagle, Star, Cuna, and rural Ada County. Along with the Ada County City Emergency Services System partners of Boise, Meridian, Eagle, Star, and Cuna Fire Departments, ACP provides 24/7 advanced life support through its operation of 15 paramedic stations strategically placed in Ada County. EMS, or Emergency Medical Services, is a special taxing district, so they have their own 3% cap on property taxes. Budget for FY24 submitted at $25 million. Well, I keep bouncing around here. $25,916,854, $755,390 under their appropriation total. Therefore, there are no supplementals. Budget to actual from FY19 to 24, and the number of employees at 160. At this point, I'd like to introduce Sean Rain, who will present the budget. Oops, what happened? Here we go. For EMS.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Welcome, Sean.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Appreciate the
Afternoon
service
instead of morning.
your department does for the county and for our citizens.
Thank you very much.
It's appreciated, and you do a lot of hard work and a lot of good training, a lot of good people. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chair, first off, I'd like to start off by thanking those people that you just thanked. We have the best paramedics and EMTs, certainly in the state, I think maybe nationwide, that work for us. We have great support staff. My command staff is sitting here with us today. Also like to thank our folks in the billing office, logistics, our mechanics, everybody that allows us to do this 24/7 operation, 365 days a year. It's a tough job for everybody, but I appreciate all of them, and I appreciate the support this board has had for our department. So our current mission: to care for you like we care for our own. We deliver pre-hospital health care focused on our values. We're in the midst of changing our mission, vision, value statement, and we're working with our field staff as our next step to change this and really make it our own. This goes back to the previous administration, but our current values are humanity, integrity, trust, excellence, and stewardship, and those are also about to change, but we'll be rolling those out probably closer to the beginning of the new fiscal year. So our long-term goals and objectives, one of the things that we really try to do is improve employee morale. And this last year, I have to say, has been a very challenging time to do that. When after working for 2.5 years through a pandemic, our solution to increase the level of service to the citizens of the county was to ask them to work an additional 8 hours of overtime every week on average. So that's been a pretty tough thing for our employee group, and I certainly appreciate those who are with us and those who have joined. Retention rate is an issue throughout the country. I think I mentioned last year, and this really hasn't changed, that in 2021, there was a net decrease of 21% of EMS providers in the nation. In other words, people that had a national certification, 21% of them didn't renew. That included everybody that was coming into the profession. So we've seen a decrease in people that are wanting to join the service. We've really been focused on a coordinated and sustainable growth strategy for all of Ada County. We've been working with our partners in Meridian, Cuna, Eagle, Boise, and Star to be able to do that and try to maximize the amount of money that we save the taxpayers by doing things like co-location. I'll get to some of that in a minute. but also being able to address some of the growth that we have seen, certainly in western and southern Ada County, where 3 years ago it was a cornfield, now there's a subdivision there with people that we have to care for. An interesting statistic we got from the Bureau of Labor last year was that the average age of people moving into Ada County and into the state of Idaho is now 65. So we're getting these people that move up here, and when they build a new subdivision, you fill it full of people that the average age is 65, they come with their medical issues with them. And so we have seen growth and call volume in areas that we've never seen before. Over the past, certainly 2 years, but the last year in particular, we have really been focused on either developing new revenue sources or maximizing the revenue sources that we currently have. Impact fees, I know we're still working through some of those issues, but also the GMT program. And I know I've told this board that program, the state plan amendment has been submitted, and we're hearing now from the consultants that our first payment would be in November of 2024, but backdated to the beginning of this fiscal year. Certainly the next generation of departmental leadership is a focus of ours. We need to find the leaders that are going to replace us. I hit my rule of 80 in December of this year. I don't plan on going anywhere in December of this year, but my time is running a little bit short, about 3 years. I'm looking 3.5 years, and I'll be looking to retire. So we need to have people ready to take my seat, deputy chief seats and battalion chief seats, and grow the leadership to be able to sustain the department. We certainly collaborate with our access and our system partners. We have done a lot of things. We have a pilot project coming up with the city of Boise to run an ALS squad that the Boise City Fire Department would run out of a brush truck. Instead of running an engine to a lot of these medical calls, they'll be using a much smaller vehicle. And at the same time, we'll be exploring the use of a basic life support unit to get the right resource to the calls that dispatch sends us to. And dispatch does a really good job of determining the acuity of the patient, so we have good data to back up what we're trying to do there. Also, just developing a new and innovative system design for the community and the EMS workforce. So things we're looking out in the future, if we can maximize our revenue and back away from a 56-hour work week and go to what we would call a fourth platoon or a fourth shift, instead of having A, B, and C shift, we would add a D shift. That would actually allow me to reduce the number of hours my employees work in the field to 42. But along with that, we have to recognize that we can't take all those hours away and take all of that annual pay away from them at the same time, because then suddenly they can't afford to live where they're living. So those are things that we'll be doing over the next several years. Accomplishments certainly for this current year. The 56-hour work week was a tremendous project, not only for the command staff, but I'd like to thank HR, the legal department. Everybody took a look at this before we made this move and this impact to our field providers. But it was necessary because you'll see here in a moment, our response times were really suffering in certain areas. Definitely Meridian, but in many of the areas that we didn't have good coverage, our response times were suffering, and we needed to be able to address that. But we had to address it with the funds that we currently had available, and that meant using the personnel that we had available. If we hired additional people and tried to stay on the work schedule we were on, I estimate that we would probably have to bring on 25 to 30 people. That's a lot more money when you look at the complete benefit package and all that goes with it, as opposed to the strategy that we're using now. The ARPA vehicle purchase was a big lift for some people in my department, and I'd like to thank this board for doing that. That's going to help our agency for years down the road. 10 ambulances. Our fleet, we had ambulances in the fleet that I was still working as a field paramedic when a few of those things were bought. So thank you very much for that. One thing, and Mark Babson is here. Captain Babson, he developed this ride-along experience, and I know Commissioner Daley was able to experience that back in December, but we've had many people go through that, and the more people that we can educate on what EMS is and how it functions, the better off we are as we continue this work with the state, with the task force to create a sustainable system for the state of Idaho and here in Ada County. Excuse me, my allergies are getting me. But we also were able to finish the Cuna Fire Station remodel, which we paid a portion of that as a good partner. We helped remodel that station. They carried the burden of the cost of that, but that allows us to co-locate in that facility as opposed to going out and, and building our own facility for probably $6 to $8 million when you look at the purchase of land, if you can find land out there. Chief Shabbat is here. Our hiring, our staff that do our hiring academies were really pushed to their limit this year, as we had a number of people that just couldn't stomach the 56-hour work week left. That meant that we had to really push the limit and have a number of hiring academies. Recruitment in our last academy, we had more paramedic applicants than we've seen in years, and we were able to bring a number of folks on through that academy, and we'll look to continue doing that as we move forward. I've already mentioned the ALS Squad and BLS Ambulance Pilot Program. That is currently scheduled to start on July 7th, barring any other circumstances. It was initially going to start June 15th, but we have to work with dispatch to get a few things tweaked before we can roll that out. One thing that we started last year was our access recognition program, and I think a few of the commissioners have been out to some of those awards. Thank you for showing up to those. It's important, for my staff to see you guys there when we recognize these people for doing these amazing things, going out and saving somebody's life and meeting them, at a fire station, meeting the patient that they saved that person's life. It's a pretty special thing. We are about to relaunch our community paramedic program. We had to put that on hiatus during the pandemic because we needed those folks to staff ambulances during that time period, and we're about to bring that back. In fact, June 20th, we're going to take the 3 community paramedics, bring them into the office for a few weeks, do some planning efforts, and that program will launch. And then we also had the successful launch, and I mentioned it during OBM this morning, of our billing office efficiency project of outsourcing half of our bills to Captivate Billing Services, which has allowed us to recognize more of that transport revenue than we would have in the past. So that's been a great thing. A little bit more about the community paramedics. We have 3 positions that are filled right now. We'll have 1 community paramedic on each of the shifts. So every day we'll have a community paramedic on, but there'll be 1 on A shift, 1 on B shift, 1 on C shift. The main areas of focus for this first year will be field referrals. So any law enforcement officer, firefighter, paramedic, or EMT, even the hospitals can recognize a patient that may need some additional resources, and a community paramedic can go out and meet with that patient and determine what their needs are and get them help. And that means that they're probably going to use not only the healthcare system, but the 911 system less in the future. And the outcome is better for the patient if they're not in the hospital or needing to call 911. We'll spool up our what we call the PET team, the psychiatric emergency team again, where we are able to go out on patients that have some sort of suicidal ideation, where we can actually go out and determine whether that patient can bypass the emergency department, which saves valuable dollars and bed space in the healthcare system, and get them the care they need, as opposed to being held in the ER for sometimes up to 2 or 3 days for a lack of bed availability in the psych facilities. The other part is just integration into the 911 system and being available for paramedics or EMTs or even law enforcement that have a situation that arises during the course of their 24-hour shift, and that community paramedic can go out and respond to that call and kind of take over and advise the patient of other resources that might be available to them, or find some things, somebody who falls a lot, if they've got a lot of carpets on the floors that can be picked up or moved, or handrails installed, the community paramedics know where to point these patients for those kinds of resources. The staffing resource will be limited right now. It's just three folks. We'll look to build that program out again through years 2 through 5. And we're always looking for not only revenue sources, but good partners to say, this is to the betterment of, let's say, an insurance company or what have you. It's helping you, it's helping the patient, it's helping us. So how can we combine efforts to have a community paramedic and go out and do this resource and do some kind of public-private partnership? So we'll be continuing to look for those kinds of things. From a policy perspective, we've done a lot this year. Certainly our Access Executive Committee, which 2 of the commissioners sit on. We've done a bunch of different things this year. One is the idea of the Narcan Leave Behind Kit program. We'll be making a motion for that to move forward successfully in July. I think we've got that figured out. Certainly the Sustainability Task Force, and I think everybody sitting behind me that's wearing a uniform right now is participating in this task force, because it's so important that we solve this issue for not only Ada County, but for the state of Idaho. We're not in any kind of fear or risk of going out of business in the next year or two. But when you look at some of these EMS agencies in the state, they're literally 1 or 2 calls from not being able to respond. Lucky for us in Ada County, we're not in that position, but we're there and participating in that task force. The goal, coming out with legislation that will work to help the EMS industry as a whole in the state of Idaho. We all were big participants in the EMS Day at the Capitol. I know at least 2 of the commissioners came down that day. That was a great day, down talking to legislators, just informing them, again, educating them about EMS and the issues that we face. And a result of that is we actually were successful at passing Senate Concurrent Resolution 101 this year, which kind of sets the stage for us to go to the legislature next year and try to establish EMS as an essential service in the state of Idaho. We were down at the legislature quite a bit this year in support of the SCR. And while we're down there, we're able to meet with legislatures, answer their questions, and it's been good to get to know those folks. And then a few of us actually went and met with our congressional delegation in DC at EMS on the Hill. It's great to have their support, and I know Senator Crapo actually wrote an op-ed for us last year, which was, we thank him very much for doing that and just recognizing the importance of EMS and the issues that we face. So we operate 15 stations 24/7. 6 of those are owned by the district. 4 are co-located with Boise, 1 with CUNA. 3 of those stations are provided by St. Luke's, and 1 station provided by St. Al's. We have 160 employees. Of those 160, the vast majority, over 140 of them, are licensed EMS personnel that are required to carry either an EMT or paramedic license. Our administrative personnel, that's our administration, billing, education, logistics, the mechanics, and our QA officers. And education and QA are also licensed personnel. That's why those numbers don't quite add up there, but 32 of the administrative personnel, some of those folks are also licensed. But out of all of those folks, I'm a licensed provider myself, but 128 of them are actual boots on the ground, day in, day out, EMS field paramedics and EMTs. So quickly, looking at our response data, our calls for service just continue to go up. We are seeing an increase right now about 2.03% by the end of June, but with our projections, when we look at this, we're projecting that we're probably going to end the year up about 6.22%, or around 38,371 calls. We ran just around 36,000 last year. So call volume just continues to increase, and a lot of that is just the growth that we've seen in the county. When you look at our response times, these are 2 different years. The green line is 2022, the blue line is 2023. But one thing that is important to notice on this is we actually saw in those years an 11% decrease in response times by adding just 12 hours of resource at Medic 28, which is at Boise Fire Station 10, at the nighttime hours. So we know that when we add more resource to the system, our response times definitely drop. And these are built out by zip code. But the more that we have ambulances on the road providing the service, and the more overlap that we have being able to go into a jurisdiction, the more likely we are to be there within our response time goal. And that's 10 minutes and 30 seconds. That's from dispatch to on scene. We give the folks about exactly a minute during the daytime, a minute and a half at night to go from you're doing nothing to you're driving right now. They got to get up and get going really quick. And then the rest of that time is actually responding to the call or driving to the call. So response times are important. And one thing to note too, this is only code 3 responses. So this isn't our ones where we drive without the lights and sirens. These are the serious call types that we're talking about here, when time really truly does matter. If you look at our call distribution, it definitely tells the story of we're running calls in places now that were farmland a few years ago, and that's just going to increase. When we look at our 10-year plan, you know, we already have the agreements to co-staff Meridian Station 7 and Station 8. Station 7 will be the first to open, Station 8 probably a month or 2 after that. Then as we look out in the future, we're looking at North Eagle, South Boise, and then an area that we need a station also is at Fairview and 5 Mile. And when you start looking at land and commercial land in these areas, it's very expensive. And so we have been talking to the city of Boise about, could we do a remodel even on Station 11 there at Emerald and 5 Mile and co-locate an ambulance? It would be a good location. And I think the city is open to that. So just shows that our further continued effort to try to maximize the amount of dollars that go into a station by co-locating and not building separate stations and separate locations. It's just more expensive. Of course, each new station, that requires an ambulance, you know, equipment. All of it's very expensive. And as we saw with the ARPA ambulance purchases, the ambulance itself is around $300,000, but when you put everything in it, it's closer to $500,000. Medical equipment is certainly not cheap, and it's not getting any cheaper. So for our total budget request on a budget this year is $19,140,081. Operating is $6,688,773. And it's tough because, you know, medical equipment always has a premium to it, but with the inflation that we've seen over the past few years, it seems like that stuff is really inflated faster. We have run into supply chain issues like everybody else has, but that's where we're at. Capital this year, we really focused on personnel and operating and not so much on capital. So this is literally just 2 gurneys and a complete tool set for one of the mechanics. That the advice of the new fleet manager was to provide those mechanics tools instead of them providing their own tools. We were able to buy 1 set this year out of this year's budget, but there's a set included in next year's budget. This is based on the board taking the full 3% plus new construction, and I thank the board for doing that in past years. Anytime that we have not done that in the past, it just puts us further and further and further behind, with our levy being as low as it is already. I already talked about the inflation. There are 3 reclassifications from paramedic to field training officer. It's a promotion. What we've noticed is that we need an additional field training officer on each one of our shifts so that we don't have to double up staff. It allows us to put more resource in the field as opposed to 3 people working on an ambulance while they're training. We can be more efficient by promoting 3 more what we call FTOs or lieutenants. There are 3 salary adjustments in here. These are folks that have been asked and have been tasked with additional things with the new financial system, with some of the changes that we made in the billing office. We've really increased a certain person's responsibilities down there in the billing office. And then certainly with our ISU program, that program just continues to grow, and we needed to address those things. We have had HR looking at our STEP plan over the past probably 18 months, and we've run into some issues where a fairly senior field training officer will promote to captain, and with a promotion, typically you should get a raise, but because of the way the STEP plan had been compressed over time, it meant that they weren't going to get a raise potentially for 3 or 4 years until they intersected a step at their new pay rate. So HR has been really good, and a big shout out to Carissa in the HR office for building a step plan that eliminates this stuff and keeps us within our budget. So we'll be implementing that this year. Vacant positions, I know, was a topic that the board wanted to discuss. Currently, we have 7 vacant paramedic positions. Those positions have been open from as little as a week to 4 months. Part of that is just on our hiring schedule. We have an opening, we'll be opening paramedic positions here in just a few weeks, and with an academy starting at the beginning of the new fiscal year. So we'll be looking to fill all those positions. We've had 1 FTO position that's been vacant since May 21st. We're going to be doing FTO testing in October, and the decision was made to just hold off on that until October if we get these 3 new positions so that we can do 1 academy for them, just be more efficient. And 1 QA coordinator captain, Cheryl Niemeyer, is retiring at the end of this month, at the end of this month. She's actually taking this month off on vacation, so I think in her mind she is already retired and out the door, but that position is open right now, and we like to have that filled by July 18th. So the start date for our new people, not additional people, just filling the vacancies, will be October 2nd. Currently, because we stayed within the appropriation, we don't have any supplemental requests, any extraordinary operating expenses or CIP requests for FY24. As I did mention this morning in OBM, because of some of the things that we've done this year, it looks like we're going to hit the end of the year with probably about close to $1 million left in our staff, and probably close to 2 in additional revenue through our billing project. So I guess the short story is that we're not going to use as much fund balance this year as we anticipated. So it puts me more at ease when we look at using fund balance for FY24. So with that, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I would stand for any questions.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there questions from the commission? Questions?
Got one item here, American Heart Association e-cards, 88,000. What's that about?
So anytime somebody does CPR, advanced cardiac life support, pediatric advanced life support, we have to issue them a card that says that they have successfully completed that course. We also have agreements through a few of the local training programs. Since we're a training center, some of the training sites actually purchase their cards through us. And so some of that revenue is offset. Some of it's just on the cards that we issue to our personnel. But yeah, the AHA is proud of those cards and what they charge for them. And there's really no way around it because the state requires that we have those certifications to maintain our licensure. So.
All right.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
On the interpretive services, how extensive are your interpretive services?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Daly, good question. It's a program where if we get a patient that either in the field or in the billing office doesn't speak English, we have an interpreter line that will step in and help us interpret for that patient. It's been a program that is required by the Affordable Care Act, but we've been using this for probably 20 years because we do run into people in the community that don't speak English, and it's important that we be able to have some kind of conversation with them. A lot of times it's pretty amazing, you know, in my career, watching children come in. I remember when we were getting a lot of immigrants and refugees from certain areas, those children pick up on the language so quickly. You'd have, you know, a 12-year-old doing some of the translation with their parents, which is pretty good. But this interpreter line does that for us.
Do you have a volunteer cadre of people, or is it, because it's only $400 in this interpretive service line? How do you make that work?
It's actually a professional service, so we just don't use it very often, so it doesn't cost us a tremendous amount of money.
Thank you.
I'm happy to translate Korean whenever is needed, but it hasn't been needed very often. That was my language in the Army. So yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I don't have any questions. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for the work you do for Ada County and service you provide the citizens.
All right.
Thank your
you very
staff as
much.
well.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ada County Procurement is led by Director Bob Perkins and performs essential procurement services for all Ada County offices and departments. In accordance with the board's procurement policy, they are responsible for procurement of all county supplies, equipment, services, and construction in excess of $7,500. Procurement is also responsible for the management of the county's fleet and disposition of county surplus. Procurement's mission is to secure the maximum value for each taxpayer dollar. They do this by instituting efficient internal processes and best practices combined with outreach efforts to help local businesses understand the county's procurement needs. Since 2019, procurement annually averages $30 million in spend, 6,000 purchase orders, 85 major projects, and 60,000 in surplus auction proceeds back to the county. Before you is the procurement budget, a department within the current expense fund, part of the 3% cap on property tax. Budget for FY24 submitted at $928,942, $62,899 over their appropriation total. They have a couple of personnel supplementals, a reclassification for $8,264, and then retention for the ERP financial project, $29,275, which would be one time. They have one supplemental for a fleet manager software subscription, ongoing costs of $25,000. You can see below the budget to actual history from FY19 to 24 and the number of employees at 8. At this point, I'd like to introduce Bob Perkins, who will present the budget for procurement. I can set here.
Welcome, Bob.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
We appreciate the service that you and your staff do for the county and the procurement process, and you seem to always be on top of it. I didn't see you bring any trophies with you.
Do any what with me?
Trophies.
Oh, no, not
You
yet.
got your trophy
I
room.
can
You
go
put
back
'em
up
in-
and get them, though.
Okay.
All right. Well, good afternoon. Thank Thank you for your time this afternoon. I look forward to walking you through Procurement Department's budget. I know our time is short, but while I have the opportunity while I'm up here, I'd like to thank a few folks. I'd like to thank the board for all your support and resources that you've given us through the years. Because of that, you've made our procurement program here at the county one of the best in the nation. So thank you for that. Really appreciate everything you've done for us. Also want to thank Chief Operating Officer Steve Rutherford and all of the board staff for all of their help throughout the year. And also a quick shout out to the HR department for their help with our market surveys and job descriptions. So thanks to Bethany, Andrea, and all of their team for all their help. I would also be remiss if I didn't say thank you to the operations department and to IT department. They play a big role in helping our operations in procurement. So thanks to Bob Carney and Stephen O'Mara for all of their help, and to their staff as well for their support.
Do they have your wall up yet?
Not yet. We're working on it. We have our pre-construction meeting next week, so we're pretty excited for
All
that.
right, thanks.
And thank you to Trent's office for all of their help. Kathleen, Tim, Kimberly, and Kobe, they've been tremendous help in helping us with our budget. So really appreciate all their help. And I also want to thank the prosecuting attorney's office. Jan and Heather have an extremely gifted civil attorneys that help us out regularly. So really thankful for all their help. And lastly, just want to thank my staff. They do an amazing job for us, and they make what we do seem easy, and I can assure you it's not. So that slide up there you'll see is our procurement team. And our team's mission in procurement is to secure the best value for the county and to be prudent with taxpayer dollars by investing in our core values, which are integrity, trust, value, and accountability. Each day, my staff walks through the doors purpose-driven to these mission and value statements. They find ways to make sure the county is getting the best value and with the highest level of professionalism. So I want to lead into this slide with the fact that we've been chopping a lot of wood this year. We have a lot of projects in the wood pile, and this year we are projected to have approximately $80 million to spend come through our doors. If you heard Kathleen earlier, our average since 2019 has been about $30 million, so significantly higher than the previous years. In fact, in 2022 we had $55 million in spend, and in 21 we had $33 million in spend. So simply put, we're seeing a lot more work come through our doors. Some notable projects in FY23 that I'd like to make mention of. For the county-funded projects, we had the Landfill North Ravine Cell Stage 4 construction project that came in $2 million under budget. That was an $11 million project. The courthouse roof replacement was estimated around $900,000. That came in $512,000 under budget. So some significant savings on some very large projects. We also have several ARPA projects we're helping with, including Expo Idaho Park design, the 10 ambulances that Shauna just mentioned. We helped to procure those. Also, the Greenbelt Riverbank Stabilization Project, and the Expo Idaho Turf Club and Exposition Building roof replacement, and the outdoor recreation structure for juvenile services. Procurement is also heavily involved with the ERP implementation. We have a lot of hours invested in development and testing the procurement workflow. The new ERP system will be a comprehensive enhancement to the financial workflows, but also will be a significant change of how we do things down in procurement. It will change our business processes fairly significantly. Additionally, we had two very successful events this year. We had the vendor fair in March. That helps to kick off the budget season. And then we also had our reuse event. And that's where offices and departments can bring in their underutilized office equipment, office supplies to share with other offices and departments that may not have those supplies. And always on our plate is our continued pursuit of excellence. So our vision and goal in just about everything we do in procurement is to work towards excellence. We do this by continuing to look at how we do things and make improvements as we go along. The journey towards excellence has not only made us better in what we do, but it's also been recognized by the National Procurement Institute's Achievement of Excellence in Procurement, or the AEP Award. For the second year in a row, Ada County Procurement was awarded this prestigious award, and we are the only government agency in Idaho to ever receive this award. And we were one of 179 agencies across the United States and Canada to receive the award. So we are judged on 18 best practice criteria, and we're measured by our demonstration of exceeding the highest standards in innovation, professionalism, productivity, e-procurement, and leadership. This award really sums up the dedication my staff has towards being the best that we can be. So just want to mention a few procurement highlights throughout the year. So one of the biggest things that we try to do in procurement is to have savings in our projects. So each year we endeavor to save 6% on our projects. This is that sweet spot between projects that have been accurately budgeted and still being able to have room for savings. In FY22, we were able to save 6% on all of our projects, and that equated to about $2.3 million. So far in FY23, we are on course to save between 6 to 10%, and our current savings are right at $2.1 million. I want to make mention of our marketplace. So Ada County Marketplace continues to help internal offices and departments with their office equipment needs. For those unfamiliar with what Marketplace is, this is an internal webpage where offices and departments can offer up their used office supplies, office equipment, and other office items to other offices. This allows these offices the opportunity to have these items reallocated to them as opposed to purchasing new. Marketplace continues to shine as an example of internal collaboration and the sharing of resources. For those items that can't be reallocated or repurposed or recycled, the county, we auction those items. And we typically will receive anywhere between $20,000 to $60,000 in auction proceeds per year from those surplus items. Also want to, where'd my slide go? Pardon me, there we go. I also want to make mention of our cooperative contracts. So today in our open business meeting, the board approved another cooperative organization for us to use. The use of cooperative contracts continues to benefit the county. The cooperative contracts allow the county to procure goods and services from competitively bid contracts. These contracts save time, man hours, and save dollars. They are a valuable tool in our toolbox, and these cooperative contracts have the direct benefit of economy of scale. In other words, Ada County gets the same discount as even the largest cities and counties in the nation. The use of cooperative contracts has increased through the years. Since 2019, when the law was passed where we could use cooperative contracts, they've increased each and every year. So FY20, we had about $1 million to spend on cooperative contracts. So far, year to date in FY23, we're about $9 million. So the trend is that we're starting to use these contracts more and more. In a nutshell, cooperative contracts help us to get to the right business partner at the right time for less tax dollars. So want to circle back around to fleet management here. So in FY22, the board recognized the need for better fleet management at the county and approved a budget for the hiring of a fleet manager. You also approved a fleet management system last year for us. So FY23 marked our first year in working towards fleet management as a countywide initiative, and I'm happy to report that we hired Ken Sinclair as our new fleet manager. And he's already made great strides in wrapping our hands around fleet needs of offices and departments. Ken has met with our newly established fleet steering committee And they have made some great contributions and recommendations, including a recommendation for procuring a new fleet management system. This system is called Holman, and it's a system that will help gather all of our data for our fleet. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. So for FY24, Ken will be using the data from the new fleet management system to help make good business decisions with our vehicles and to ensure our fleet is well maintained. Additionally, Ken has been working to reallocate a few of the county's lesser utilized vehicles and move them to offices and departments that can utilize them, including moving some of these to an upcoming courthouse motor pool. So our hope is in FY24 to have a few more vehicles for county employees to use right here at the courthouse. So Ken is also collaborating with the Fleet Steering Committee and Risk Management on a new fleet vehicle policy, which should be available sometime in early FY24. Would also like to extend a thank you to those offices and departments that have participated in the Fleet Steering Committee. The participation is integral into making the fleet program successful here at the county. So, on to our procurement budget request. So our FY24 budget request is for $928,942. Our appropriation, as Kathleen had mentioned, was $866,043. That's a supplemental of $62,899. We are a very small department with a very small budget, so anytime that we have a need or an ask, it typically will involve a supplemental. So what does our supplementals look like? Well, I have two A budget requests totaling $37,899. The first A budget request is a reclassification of the procurement supervisor to a procurement manager. This is an $8,624 annual increase, including fringe. The procurement supervisor's role has changed significantly in the last few years to a managerial role, managing staff, overseeing projects, assisting with budget, and coordinating events. This position is also next in line to the director's position. This reclassification catches the position up to where it needs to be, and this reclass was reviewed and recommended by HR. I mentioned earlier that the new Oracle ERP system will impact procurement, and will impact us significantly. It will impact us in terms of workload and in business processes. So my other A budget request is for a one-time retention pay for 6 procurement staff. This one-time pay will be metered out roughly 6 months after go live in October. Oops. So these folks will be deeply impacted by the implementation of this ERP system. It will be a heavy lift for them to take on a new ERP system and with the anticipated workload of projects, and the amounts will vary to each employee based on this level of impact and their involvement with the implementation. And also helped with giving a positive contribution to a successful start to this ERP implementation system. In total, I'm asking for $29,275, including fringe, for these 6 staff. I also mentioned in the previous slide the need for a fleet management system to better track our fleet data. I have a B budget supplemental request for $25,000 to fund the fleet management system. This is an ongoing expense to support the Holman Fleet Management System that the Fleet Steering Committee is recommending. So this system will help better track our data. It will help us define which vehicles are utilized and which ones are not, where we have deficiencies in our fleet and where we can shore up our fleet. Additionally, it is worth mentioning that we also budgeted $50,000 last year for a fleet management system, but we are turning back that money as it was one-time money, and it was for the implementation of a different system that we ultimately did not go forward with. So that brings me to the end of my budget presentation, and just want to say thank you again for all your support, and happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commission? Any questions?
I just appreciate everything you're doing. The fleet management program is kind of an exciting new addition to Ada County. I think that's working great. Really excited to see the savings and the efficiency that are going to be coming to the county as we continue to get it going. And yeah, always appreciate the good job you guys do. And thanks for all your hard work.
Great, thank you, appreciate that.
Any questions?
My question is do you have an estimate of, last year the inflation rate was, depending on the month, was 8% average last year for 2022. How has that impacted the overall, I mean, I know you're doing some things like the supply systems and stuff, but how has that affected your budget or?
So the inflation's affected everybody's budget, including procurements. Just things cost more. Office supplies cost more. Fuels cost more. So last year really impacted us. This year, our procurement analyst is predicting not as bad of an inflation year as we have in the last few years, but still impactful for not only procurement, but the rest of the offices and departments.
So you've actually saved the county money by reducing the inflation in the budget in relation to the inflation in the world. So we thank you for that.
Okay, great, thank you, appreciate that.
Okay. Well, thank you. We appreciate the efforts that your department does in procurement, and I know that other counties are looking to you for leadership because they don't even have a procurement office, some of them. And thank you, and I don't have any questions, so thank you for your presentation.
Thanks, Commissioners, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Want to do a break?
Did you want a break? Is that what I heard?
Want a break? Do you want a break? All right, we'll do a 10-minute break.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Led by Director Robert Carney, Operations is the county's centralized billing and maintenance department. The Operations Department focus is to provide safe and efficient facilities and exceptional service to internal departments to ensure facilities are in the best condition possible to efficiently serve Ada County citizens. Through maintenance operations and project management, the department serves Ada County citizens, elected officials, and staff. The department manages the daily operation of 35 facilities encompassing over 1.4 million square feet. In FY22, the 48-person maintenance staff completed 18,311 work orders at county buildings. Operations manages all county capital building and tenant improvement projects, property leases, site certifications, and facility compliance issues. Operations is currently managing 50 construction projects with a total value of $143,570,570. Operation provides for the county's mail and distribution system in-house and manages over 30 various maintenance contracts with outside vendors for routine services such as facilities, cleaning, lawn care, and parking services. Operations pays for the majority of the county's utility expenses and manages energy and water usage to keep facilities operating efficiently. Operations is a department within the current expense fund, part of the 3% cap on property taxes. Budget submitted for FY24, $16,950,579, $790,000 over their appropriation total. They have two supplementals, one for a rate increase, utility rate increase for $140,000, which would be ongoing, and then we added the Elder Street roof replacement of $650 one time. We'll have that discussion in deliberations, and I think Bob is going to speak to this. We have budget to actual for FY19 to 24, and the number of employees at 67. I'd like to introduce Robert Carney, who will present the operations budget.
Great.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our budget discussion. This is your first go at it, and I know you've had a lot of get your arms wrapped around the operations department. We pushed a lot on you, and we appreciate your challenge in getting it done.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you.
Chairman, Commissioners, please, like I said, this is my first time, so if I muddle through the process, I do apologize, but I'll do my best to stay on task. So I'd like to first start out by just saying thank you to all of you for the opportunity to lead the operations department. I feel both humbled and honored to be a part of the team here, and the transition to the county has been a true blessing for me and my family, so thank you. I do want to thank a couple of people before I get started. Thank you to Bethany Callany and her team, Josh Nielsen especially for all their support. They've been a big help to me over my first five months here. Thanks to the clerk Trent Triple, Kathleen Graves, and Tim Sturgis for their support and guidance as I worked through my first budget process. I'm sure I asked a lot of questions and made some challenges for them, but appreciate their support. I want to thank all the department heads and the rest of the county staff for such a warm welcome for me when I came on board. And then thank you to the operations staff for all their support, especially my ops admin team. I pushed a lot on them and asked a lot of questions, and they've responded well, so I appreciate them. From a mission and value standpoint, I'm looking to work through all of that with our team, but just kind of at a very high level. Our role is to serve our internal customers so that they can serve our community, and so that's the role that we'll take on here. So let's dive into the budget presentation, and we'll do a quick overview of our large capital projects to start. So the Coroner's facility is progressing well. Administrative offices, as you saw when you toured through a couple weeks ago, has been painted. There's some cabinets going in. The autopsy area is currently being drywalled, so everything's moving along well there. Although we've had a couple of challenges along the way, we're still on track for a mid-December move-in. And so I do want to thank Coroner Rich Riffle for his collaboration as we work to finish up that project and get the facility ready for them to occupy and use. Jail expansion project, so we're back re-engaged with LCA Architects to finish up the schematic design for this project. The goal is to have a full set of plans and bid documents by the end of this year, so we're ready to hit the street as soon as funding's approved, and hopefully that will happen here soon as well. Expo Park, or the park at Expo, Idaho, I should say, currently just finished up the preliminary design for the park, and we're moving into the schematic design phase. So the goal is to have a full set of plans by September of 2024, so we can go out to bid with the completion date of the end of the year of 2026. As we move into some of our projects here, so this is project completed, FY23, FY22, FY23. Our team's been very busy managing and maintaining our facilities and then managing and managing our projects. As you can see here, they completed a total of 51 projects for roughly $5.3 million. These projects included everything from carpet replacement to roof replacement and kind of everything in between. So team's done a great job there. As Kathleen mentioned, we actually have, I think we're doing about 48 projects in progress. Our project management team led by Josh Brown, they're doing a wonderful job. Like I said, there's 48 projects in design under construction or they've been completed in the warranty phase, roughly $1.6 million. That includes the jail expansion and the Park at Expo, Idaho. This year, we do have two capital investment program requests. The first one is for the courthouse elevators at a cost of $2.9 million. The elevators are getting past their useful life, so this upgrade will include everything from replacement of lift machinery, controls, door operators, and all components associated with the elevator car. So modernizing the 7 elevators in the courthouse will bring us back into that 20-year life cycle again. Our second request is for the courthouse fire alarm system upgrade, and so if we do the elevators, we'll have to do the fire alarm system in order to get the elevators up to current code. And so that project would include design, replacement of the fire alarm system, existing panels, adding devices, and replacing devices that are required by code. And once both of those projects are complete, then the new fire alarm system will be up to code NFP 72 for our courthouse. As we've talked over the past 5 months, you guys have talked about the best government for the least amount of money, and so I challenged my team to dive into our budget and find some creative solutions to do so, and so we'll dive into the budget and take a look. So this is how our tax dollars were spent in our area for the last full fiscal year, so FY22. So you can see the breakout of how everything was applied there. And so our approach when we dove into the budget, kind of a modified zero-based budget approach in this. And so we went through line by line to identify any potential issues or challenges in our budget, look for any opportunities. We started by applying our budget numbers to life safety items, contractual obligations, and of course utilities, which are a large expense for our budget. Then we reviewed our semi-variable expenses, which include building repairs, uniforms, tools, vehicle repairs, fuel, department supplies, and so forth. Reviewed our expenses from current to previous fiscal years to see if we had any trends that we needed to identify. After that, we dove into department initiatives and then finally looked at our deferred maintenance and capital improvement areas. During the review of our service and equipment contracts, we identified items that were going out to bid. We looked at the forecasted anticipated increase in those based off our current data and what we've seen in the marketplace. And then for utility expenses, we worked with our energy specialists to assist in forecasting usage rates. As you know, energy rates and are continually climbing, and so we'll see that as a big part of our budget request, our budget process. And then I was just informed last Thursday that if Idaho Power gets the approval, that we'll have a general rate increase of another 6% that goes into effect January 1st of 2024. So another increase to our budget kind of last minute. So I think that's been our biggest challenge. So our operating budget for our 23 to 24 comparison, you can see that the total in there is $1.26 million. That includes the 2.5% appropriation, funding for the new Coroner's facility at $187,200, our 2 supplementals that we'll talk about here in a little bit, and then our additional department revenue. That department revenue includes some post-COVID parking increases. It also includes some of our support for our enterprise funds. The enterprise fund revenue is a wash to us because it's just a pass-through expense. And so although the revenue increases on the enterprise fund side, so does our expense. In our personnel budget, you'll see a slight bump there. We used our internal funding to fund that bump. Part of that is tied to implementing a promotional program for our maintenance mechanics. We also increased our overtime by about $25,000 in our budget. The last increase in our budget for our overtime was FY18, even though wages year over year have gone up. So this will allow us to catch up in there. We worked with HR. We had 5 market-based salary adjustments for our facility maintenance supervisors, 2 modifications to some job duties. repurposed a position that we're looking to fill here starting in July, and then defunded a position. And so all of that combined works out to that $32,938. And as I mentioned, $25,000 of that is just in overtime expenses. And so part of our process in this area, as we worked through it, was to identify ways that we can try to save money. We have 2 new facilities coming online this fiscal year. So you'll see we're not asking for any new positions. We are working on rerouting and restructuring the county, so rezoning how it's laid out. It'll allow us to provide faster response time to our customers, less windshield time driving from site to site. It'll save us on fuel, save us on vehicle wear and tear. And so that's what you'll see, that slight modification there on our budget. And then the Mech Tech, so Maintenance Mechanics 1 to Maintenance Mechanic 2, that's the promotional program I mentioned. So in that piece there, currently, if we have people that we want to try and keep and retain, we don't have the ability to really promote them into that Maintenance Mechanic 2 position unless we have an opening. So this program, incentive program, will allow us to have some funding in our budget so that if we're ready to promote someone from a Mechanic 1 to Mechanic 2, we can do so during the budget year. Then we've also placed an emphasis on training and development in our budget. So additional training and education will allow us to bring some of the contractor works in-house, which will aid in staff retention as well, and then hopefully save the taxpayers some money. On our operating budget side, you can see we're forecasting roughly $650,000 for the 2 new facilities to operate those. Like those are forecasted expenses. We don't have any hard data. Our goal is to collect some hard data and then come back next fiscal year and let you know what that looks like for us. It'll be able to tell us if we need additional staffing at that time or additional funding for it. The other part of that is we moved some money from our capital side of it over to the operating budget. That move is strictly for projects like carpet replacement. The auditor's office has it listed as maintenance instead of capital, and so although we do it as a capital project on our side, it just fits in the operating side of it, so it's just more of an internal move of that money. That doesn't really change anything from how we operate, and then you can see the employee development component in there as well. Like everyone, we're dealing with inflation, so consumer price index, as you can see, is still up over previous years in FY21 to now still up about 4%. So we're battling that like everybody else. And then the producer price index for us as well is another thing that we're tracking. As you can see, that's still climbing. I think the next report comes out tomorrow, so that'll be a good indicator for us as to hopefully what inflation looks like and maybe how it will impact us. And we'll try to forecast that as we build out our deferred maintenance program going forward. For our capital budget line, you can see how we moved our money around. So $64,000 was a roll forward from FY23. So you see a decrease there. There's that $475 for the projects that we moved that we're looking to do in FY24, moved over into the operating lines with the carpet replacement and so forth. And then our funding move to our operating budget from our capital improvement line is $887. So that was used to help balance our budget. If we really dove into it and asked for what we needed based off of what I'll talk about here for utilities and so forth, our request would probably have been a lot more. And then, of course, we have the Elder Street supplemental that we'll talk about as we get into the supplemental requests. So we have 2 supplemental requests for this fiscal year. One is for a utility rate increase of $140,000, and then the second is for the one-time funding for the Elder Street roof repair. So on the utility side, as you can see, based on this chart, the increases that we have, we're forecasting a $462,000 increase in our utility rates. We were able to move money around within our budget and cover $322,000 of that. By our shifting around dollars, as we talked about, identifying what's priority and what's not a priority in this process. And so what's left is that $140,000, which is our request for utilities. As you can see in this slide, so since October 1st of 2021, so the start of FY22, these are the rate increases based off the different utilities across the board. And then you can see that additional 6% that we're looking at for January 1st of 2024. So when you look at the next slide, this converts it into dollars, and so you'll see that since 10/1 of 21, so start of FY22, it's a $713,800 increase just in utilities alone for the operations budget. So pretty significant increase that we're trying to work through and manage, as you can imagine. And so, like I said, we tried to find some creative opportunities to move some money around in our budget so that we can figure that out for this year. Our supplemental number 2 is the Elder Street roof replacement. As we mentioned before, and we spoke about that roof is 20 years old and past its useful life. Of course, we added the supplemental back in because the Beechwood property kind of fell through, and now it's back in. And so if it closes on Friday, then we'll pull that supplemental out of our request.
It's going to close on Friday.
Yes, sir. That is the hope. So, like I said, if that happens, we've already worked with the clerk, and we'll pull that supplemental request out of our budget. So it takes you into the summary. So here's a summary of our final budget. Like I said, the 16,950 was our request. If we back out that 650 for the supplemental for the Elder Street roof, that'll take us down to 16.3 million for our request for FY24. So this is just a picture of our team. Our group of amazing individuals comes together as a team on a daily basis to accomplish our goals and objectives. They are the strength behind the operations department. Our focus is to continue to recruit and retain highly skilled people to provide the highest level of customer service to our customers. And so I'd like to thank our team of dedicated staff for their commitment to supporting the county's overall mission. Our success is directly tied to their level of commitment and service to our customers. And so before I close, I'd just like to say thank you to my leadership team. They played a large role in pulling this together, and so certainly couldn't have had this presentation ready and done for you all without them. And so I do appreciate them. Most of them are sitting in the front row here for me. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for your time, and I stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the commission?
Well, so you're not asking for any new positions,
No, sir.
and you feel the staffing level is going to be adequate for the next year, and restructuring some things and repurposing and.
Yeah, as we look at restructuring how we're doing things, we're also looking at facility dude and how we're using that. So Mark and Dean have taken on that task for us. We think we found some ways we can save some time and how much labor our staff spends in the system, closing out work orders and so forth. So we think we're going to find some savings there for labor, and then same with the restructuring that we're doing by adding another zone. New Corners facility coming on, that'll tie into that zone. It makes the zone smaller, so less wind chill time, less driving from site to site. And so we think all of that together will help us get to where we need to be from a staffing standpoint. And of course, once the building comes online and we start to work through it, then we'll be able to identify whether or not plan was successful. But based off what we're seeing, I think we'll be able to save enough labor hours to accomplish what we're looking to get done.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No question, just comment. Appreciated visiting with you about the zero-based budgeting. Having been through that myself, I appreciate your use of that in your budgeting process, which allowed you to do some of the innovative things you did, and then the inflation, outlining that for us as well. I appreciate that too, because that's a significant part of what inflation is. Is the hidden tax that we all have right now by basically from other people policy at another level of government that's imposing that on us. It's a unfunded mandate. So I appreciate you helping us deal with that.
Certainly. Thank you, Commissioner.
Do you have any unfunded, unfilled positions in your?
I do. We currently have 5. We're actively recruiting for, I think, 4 of those positions. One of them we're going to post. The 5th one we'll post in July is kind of the time frame. I was working to get through the budget cycle with all of you to make sure there wasn't any hiccups along the way. It's a position that I've repurposed that I think I've identified several areas where I feel like there's gaps in what we're doing. And so repurposing this position will help fill those gaps and allow us to serve our customers both internally and then serve our team a lot better as well. And then the other positions we're actually actively recruiting, interviewing, and hopefully we'll get some offers out here shortly.
All right. Well, I want to thank you again because your department fulfills a large share of work in the county to help keep us all going. And we appreciate that, and we've added a lot of extra work to your crew by all this new construction that we got coming down the pike, and some of it we're almost through with, I suppose. That'll be a nice. But then we start on another big prize. So I think It's a big load for your staff, and I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll tell you, our team is up for the task, so we're excited about the new buildings coming online, and we'll continue to do what we need to do to support the county.
All right. Well, good. Well, thank you. Thank
sir.
you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Solid Waste Management, known as the landfill, is headed by Bruce Crisco and has nearly 2,700 acres off of Siemens Gulch Road, northwest Boise. The property includes 2 landfill cells, a household hazardous materials collection facility, waste diversion processes for wood and tires, and a landfill gas collection system. Landfill gas from buried waste is generated into electricity and sold to Idaho Power. Solid Waste is a fluid and dynamic county department consisting of heavy equipment, operations, environmental, scale house, and administrative teams. The landfill provides essential mandated waste processing services that are regulated by both federal and state agencies to the citizens and businesses of Ada County. Solid Waste is a self-supported fund. Their budget for FY24 is submitted at $20,048,388, an increase of $1,655,547, which is covered with revenue. Below, you can see the budget to actual from FY19 to 24 and the number of employees at 50. At this point, I'd like to introduce Bruce Crisco, who will present this budget.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Well, welcome, Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
You're in-
Commissioners.
You're in familiar territory.
Yes.
And I want to,
Sure you can drive that.
I'd like to thank you, Bruce, because we asked you to take over the landfill at the beginning of the year, and you stepped up to the plate. And just from my perspective, and I think the rest of the board, we're extremely impressed and grateful for your service.
Well, thank you very much. You may not feel that way after today's presentation.
We'll see.
Well, we'll get right to it. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for your time and consideration of the Ada County solid waste budget. Succinctly, the Solid Waste Department, skilled staff of heavy equipment operators, site operations personnel, environmental technicians, scale house operators, maintenance mechanics, and office staff effectively manage the 2,700-acre sanitary landfill. The essential service for the citizens of Ada County is accomplished with compliance to all Environmental Protection Agency and Idaho Department of Environmental Quality regulations. None of this would be possible without thanking all of the great folks at the landfill doing the hard work. Would also like to thank you and Steve Rutherford for your support with all the changes that we've gone through at the landfill. So thank you again. The mission of the Ada County Solid Waste Department is to proactively manage county waste disposal facilities, enforce all applicable codes, follow all regulatory requirements, and provide environmentally acceptable methods for waste disposal for all county residents and businesses. Diversion, recycling, and educational outreach continue to be paramount effort in our overall mission to extend the life of the landfill. First and foremost, the Solid Waste Department is an enterprise fund. This means we are self-supporting. Tipping fee revenues must cover expenditures. Budgetary pressures have been growing over the past fiscal years. Inflation has impacted every aspect of our operations. Our current tipping fee rate was set in 2019 and was assumed to be immune to inflation has not changed. As you have heard, inflation has also infected general funded departments, and they have received 7.5% in budgetary relief since 2020. We have not. Population growth has increased, and municipal solid waste tonnage coming into the landfill has put strains on heavy equipment working on the active face areas and performing daily cover. Heavy equipment maintenance costs have increased due to overuse and aging of equipment. The original heavy equipment suite for the working face operations were sized to a smaller tonnage volume and has remained static since 2020. The 12-year-old existing software is being replaced with waste station software. Our current software did bridge a gap, but is tired and needs significant upgrading. Billing issues, reporting, and accuracy of reports to help create our budget is problematic. The largest budget concern, however, is fund balance. There are 3 fund balance items to keep on the event horizon. They are to be funded every year from the solid waste budget. They are 117 NRC cell development. Fund is for the phased development of the active landfill North Ravine cell. The current balance is $12.5 million and will go to zero this fall with the completion of phase 4 by Knife River. In 5 years' time, we will need at least $15 million to cover the cost of NRC 5. 126, cap and closure of NRC. Fund is required by state statute and is currently at $4 million. The fund should be at a level to cover closure costs and requirements at any time. Estimated cost of closure by Jacobs Engineering is $4.4 million in FY22. The updated financial liability report is due in September from Jacobs Engineering, and I'm sure it's going to be higher than that. 127, new landfill development. Fund is for the new landfill location and development with a projected need in 2065. The new landfill will be needed before Fund 126 cap and closure of NRC can commence. Current balance of this fund is $1.5 million, and the estimated cost of new landfill in today's dollars is $35 million. This includes purchase of new land, permitting of site, engineering of new landfill, and construction of all landfill infrastructure. The total request from the auditors for these funds is $3.6 million annually. Once these funds increase and are established, the Treasurer's Office does a fantastic job of investing. The fund balances can be leveraged over time, increasing their values to help cover the county risk, but they need to be funded and established as budget line items in future budgets. This will be more transparent and show financial need to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee and others who are interested in our budgets. The good news is that we have been austere with our current budget to keep the lights on and the gates open. Our department will continue collaborative efforts with the SWAC committee this fall to get tipping fees in order and so that we can properly infuse these critical fund balance items. Our budget comparison for FY23 and 24. Operating budget is increasing 24% from FY23 to about $11.9 million. Capital budget is decreasing 25% from FY23 to approximately $3.8 million. Personnel budget is increasing 15% from FY23 to just over $4.3 million. However, the total revenue budget is up only 8.9% from FY23 and is based on both the pre-pandemic $29 a ton rate and projected tonnage increase due to county growth. Total budget revenue is just over $20 million for FY24. Revenue tonnage increases. Municipal solid waste tonnage across our scales is what's used by our department for our self-supporting forecasted budget revenues. Tonnage for FY23 is projected to be 617,000 tons. Tonnage for FY24 is projected to be 655,000 tons. This is an anticipated increase of 38,000 tons for FY24. There are 48 line items in the solid waste operating budget and is the largest, most fluid part of our overall budget. Larger items of concern for FY24 are subsidizing diversion programs and heavy equipment maintenance. Alternate daily cover foam is a new line item, and we're looking forward to its implementation in the future. The operating budget gives us the best opportunity for revenue savings and fund balance health. This budget must fund all known and known risks to assure that the landfill keeps working. However, the operating budget will be monitored and scrutinized through the fiscal year to spend as little as possible as have we done in this fiscal year. All savings in the operations budget will be put into fund balance items. Total operating budget for FY24 is just under $12 million. The solid waste capital budget is significantly less than FY23. The first item in the is the completion of the administration building project. Paving is needed to create a plowable, all-weather surface for visitors and employees and is estimated at $750,000. This will finish the new building. The heavy equipment request for an articulated dump truck at $800,000 and a large excavator at a cost of $650,000. This dual-purpose equipment is needed for augmenting daily cover compliance requirements and will also be utilized by our operation crew for landfill maintenance projects. The next line item is for the Education Center phased construction plan. This will start in FY24 with $300,000 in site access improvements for better traffic control and safety. The landfill perimeter fence will also need improvements and maintenance in FY24 to remain in EPA and IDEQ compliance at an estimated project cost of $1 million. Our diversion program is very important and will extend the landfill lifespan. To improve this program, we will start with a Z-wall design only for $250,000, with construction plan to start in FY25. The last capital budget item is fiber optic connection of the hazardous household waste building to the flare system for better real-time data capture for $30,000. Total capital budget is just under $3.8 million. At first glance, our personnel budget seems to increase 15% from FY23. The administration line item is for reestablishment of the solid waste director's position, transitional training with 2 directors, and outgoing retirement costs of almost $300,000. This is Bruce's fault. And it's a one-time directed budget event. If this is subtracted from the total budget request, the increase in the total personnel budget is only 7.9%. We are asking for 5 market adjustments needed for our environmental technician positions. The environmental positions require technical skills and abilities that we could not attract or keep at the previous wage rate. Lastly, the department management structure has gone through a reorganization with position changes and increased duties with existing PCNs. All position changes and adjustments were coordinated with human resources in the auditor's office, totaling just under $256,000. I must give thanks to Bethany Kelly and Andrea Byrne and Kathleen Graves for help with this essential goal. The rest of the personnel items are self-explanatory. Total personnel budget is approximately $4.3 million. Total budget review for FY24, total operating budget $11.9 million, total capital budget $3.8 million, total personnel budget $4.3 million, total revenue budget $25,263. Saving money efforts. We have been working diligently to save money wherever possible. Switching to point-and-pay credit card services from 2 different credit card vendors not only made transactions much simpler, but also saved the department $125,000 and is now self-supporting. Scrubber media change from MV Technologies to Clear Technologies will save $62,000 a year. It is cheaper to buy, easier to change, and does not require water for gas treatment. This will allow longer life of our gas treatment equipment with much less moisture corrosion issues. Solid Waste is currently implementing this change. Installing solid rubber tires on 2 front loaders has stopped many flat tires due to the landfill's harsh environment. Not only do we save $25,000 a year, but the equipment is online, working, and increasing productivity. Our department has just completed an IDEQ pilot study for the use of alternate daily foam cover. We are utilizing treated leachate water to make the foam mixture. The Atmos foam is superior to soil cover for fugitive emissions from the landfill and will roughly save 500 cubic yards of airspace per year and extending the lifespan of the North Ravine cell. Projections of airspace saved over time is hard to quantify, but adding life to the landfill does have a significant value. Hopefully, we will hear from IDEQ soon approving this product so we could start using the foam in daily operations. Diversion and recycling makes sense both socially and economically. Making our diversion self-supporting or as self-supporting as possible is a major goal we are working towards. Diverting materials from the landfill will increase the lifespan of the North Ravine cell. However, with tightening budgets, the diversion program must pay for itself or it'll be unsustainable. We are currently spending $2 million on diversion. There are 3 parts to our diversion plan. First, the solid waste department needs new software installed that will handle and track a diversion rate schedule. We are currently working on the purchase and implementation of waste station software with Paradigm. Second, we will be creating a meaningful rate structure for review by SWAC with all diversion program costs. Once agreed upon, we will bring that rate structure to you for your approval. We have an RFP for processing costs of fibrous and rubble materials that is due on June 20th that will start this new rate schedule. And last, the Z-wall construction is the final part of the diversion program. Once completed, the Z-wall will organize and efficiently accept diverted materials. This will also provide an all-weather surface for safe public use and eliminate the need for the public to travel to the active NRC cell. This diversion effort would modernize our process and bring us in step with many other landfills and transfer stations. We are working on 3 additional projects to streamline our expenditures and increase our revenues. The first is the LFGD Company Landfill Gas Development Project. This project is planned to capture most of the landfill gas and commercially sell the gas as a renewable energy source. LFGD is planning to start site development this August and commercial operations in late spring, early summer of 2024. This could be a game changer for revenues to the landfill and especially for the fund balance issues. But actual production start date and actual revenues for the landfill are still to be determined. The Solid Waste Department is also working with Caterpillar Tractor on renegotiating our current contract to better represent actual hours used and lease buyback values. We're hoping to have an amount from Caterpillar Tractor for this budget report, but there was a holdup with their corporate office, and we should get it soon. The current lease agreement sunsets at the end of FY25. The new lease agreement components will also be defined with Caterpillar Tractor this fall. They will be helping us with ongoing efforts to right-size our fleet and revise the hours the heavy equipment is used. A specialist from Caterpillar Tractor is being brought in for productivity improvements with current and future fleets. These findings will all be captured in the new lease agreement by FY25 prior to when the current agreement ends. One of our unique accomplishments this fiscal year is our bird depredation solicitation. This contract will employ a falconer to reduce seagull issues at the landfill. The public, commercial haulers, landfill employees, and even our pieces of heavy equipment will all appreciate this effort for sanitary reasons. This RFP will post tomorrow, and submissions are due on July 10th. Our other accomplishments blend in with further money-saving efforts at the landfill. We are currently using ARPA dollars for 2 projects, significantly reducing our capital budget. The ARPA groundwater treatment project will treat a plume of leachate water at the southern edge of the Hidden Hollow cell. The project is in design and will go out for construction in January 24. Estimated cost, $1.6 million. The second ARPA project is the leachate pond expansion. This project will add a 3rd pond to the west of the current pond locations. The additional pond will increase storage capacity, evaporation, and allow for overdue maintenance of existing ponds. The picture shows how high our leachate levels got this spring. The existing leachate ponds were at maximum capacity due to unseasonable moisture. The 3rd pond may also help us with new EPA, PFAS, and PFOS regulations coming out specifically for landfill operations in August. Our department is working on the design RFP with scheduled spring construction in 2024. Estimated cost, $1.8 million. Our education manager, Rebecca Weeks, is doing a great job expanding the landfill educational outreach. Many county employees, public organizations, K-12 schools, and some university groups have taken the landfill tour, and the feedback has been very positive. Rebecca also oversaw the redesign of our website. It It is now much easier to use and is a key component in informing the public about the science of the landfill, billing and account information, diversion, and recycling efforts. Thank you, Rebecca. Lastly, I cannot give enough thanks to all of the landfill staff. They are working very hard and doing exceptional work. We are moving ahead at the landfill and continuing to develop our culture and team approach. The Solid Waste Department has finished a complete reorganization and addressed many issues and projects in a very short time. Past budgets and practices had to be addressed so that the foundations for present and future budgets are sound and remain self-supporting. Modernization of our software is very important for accurately tracking diversion programs, tipping fees, and revenue streams. The Solid Waste Enterprise Fund, most importantly, needs to have a fund balance surplus at year's end. These surpluses will cover operational, statutory, and long-term strategic responsibilities. I am happy to report we are almost there and should finish the way forward this fall with continued SWAC committee collaborative efforts. An organization is only as strong as its employees, and we hope the proposed wage increases are implemented to retain and help landfill staff to continue the great work being done. The future of the landfill is bright, and we look forward to continued notable accomplishments and sustained financial autonomy. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, for your time and consideration of the Ada County Solid Waste budget. With that, I stand for questions.
Okay, well, thank you. Is the new tipping fees going to be in the FY24 budget?
Well, it's going to, if approved and put out there, it'll be in FY24 budget. Yes, it'll start October 1. That's the plan. But we had to submit our budget before all that was decided upon or approved or what. We didn't have that information when we had to submit our budget.
And so that will change the
Yes,
the
that could-
revenue, of course.
And I put that on the slide. I think we're going to be gaining another 1.9 million. It's significant, but it doesn't take care of all the fund balance items. It does take a good part of it.
Right.
And through our savings, through our normal operations during the year, I think we can make up that delta and get to where we need to be as far as 3.6 is concerned.
And you are making progress with Caterpillar.
Yes. We sat down with them at great lengths. We've already had discussions, and Tom just checked on it, last week, right? And we were told they had some issues with their management staff in corporate to give us our new lease agreement. I don't think it's going to be significant, but savings are savings.
Well, savings are savings, and they want to cooperate with, we're a big customer, and so they want to do us right, I believe, I hope anyway. I met with the president earlier, sort of hopefully got the ball rolling for you.
Yes,
hope
it helped a lot.
I hope that worked.
It broke the ice.
Yeah.
Thank you
Well,
for that.
That's what was needed, breaking the ice. All right. Well, I don't have any questions. We keep up with your activities and your staff, and so.
We're doing a lot. We're doing a lot up there.
You are. You're doing a lot. And as I tell people often approach me and say, "Well, what all does the county do?" And I'm going, "Do you ever put your garbage can out to the street?" "Yeah." "Well, where do you think that goes?" "We take care of it."
A lot of folks think it's just a hole in the ground, you throw trash into it. It's a lot of science, there's a lot of,
Yes.
a lot of
A lot of
stuff on it.
science, a lot of things going on, and we don't know for sure about if we'll be up and operational in the near future with that gas project, but
We're hopeful.
Hopeful.
We're hopeful.
but we haven't built that into our budgets, of course, because we don't know
Can't.
we don't know what the revenue is going to be.
And that's the problem with the enterprise fund, especially
Yeah.
of this magnitude, is
Yeah.
all the unknowns that we have to prognosticate to cover.
Sure.
We have to be over, we can't be under. We don't want to come back to you all with all sorts of problems saying we don't have enough money, yada, yada, yada. We want to cover our risks, and that's what this
But
budget does.
But the landfill provides a tremendous benefit to this community. I mean, I'm sure you've seen news reports when they don't know what to do with their trash, and we're taking care of ours. And it's an essential service, and I'm thankful you're getting the job done. Any questions from the commission?
Got to follow up on the tipping fee. So that's the preliminary?
We
Amount that-
budgeted for worst case with only the $29 a ton, and we made our budget work with that. And if the $32 a ton does come through and is approved, and we start collecting those revenues October 1, all the better. And then we'll readjust. Most of that money will go right into those fund balance line items that I told you about, that we've got to get those up so they can start working for themselves and collecting interest through the treasurer's office. And again, they do a great job with that.
But we're going to have a study
Yes.
relatively soon, and then that'll
This
be
fall,
readjusted upwards even more.
This fall, we have more negotiations with SWAC to show them the numbers. I hope I did a lot of that today. And we have support documentation. Tom, where's that stack? That we'll be giving them, as well as our budgets and where we're going. That's all the backup data from Jacobs and others.
Well, SWAC is a good is a good set of partners, but they are advisory, but they do represent our major customers.
Yes,
I mean,
we want to get
good
along with
partners.
them. We
They're
do.
good partners. They're
Yes,
good
they are.
partners for
Yes,
us.
they
and
are.
we do appreciate their efforts and their activities. And anyway, any other questions?
Well, happy to see the Falcon will be coming out soon.
Yes,
But
we're excited about that. We'll see how that goes.
So you got that down for 85,000. What all does that include?
That's having the Falcon there every day, 365 days a year. Holidays may be accepted on that. I don't remember exactly.
Falcons take
But
holidays?
for most of the time we're there, the Falcon's there. The plan is to see how the first month goes, and then they say we could possibly drop back from that. That's worst case, so that we pay as we go. And we're hoping that like every 2 weeks they come out just to remind the birds who's boss out there. Once they get the memory, supposedly, they don't come back. But from our research, falcons are the most effective way to get rid of seagulls and their byproduct.
Are you able to assign a cost to how much the damage is that's attributed to birds or additional maintenance?
No,
Is it
but
hard to
I
quantify?
think it would put a smile on folks' head besides on their face, or instead of something on their head. That's the intent, is to keep the birds away from their bombing campaign up there, so.
Then you got an item for interpreter services?
Yes.
What is that used for?
We have a hearing impaired mechanic, and for training and other items, and for, what else, Tom? besides- Team meetings, that's right. He needs an interpreter.
Okay. So, how does that service work? Is
The
it,
interpreter comes and bills us. That's just worst case. In the event that we need most of that or all of that, depending on the training that we're offering. We just went through a whole battery of training with our Thompson consultants for team building and management training. It was very good for our department. It was the first training that anybody there was ever exposed to, so that was awesome, other than some of Bethany's training. But as far as culture training, that was a big one for us.
So somebody actually shows up, it's not, you can't do this digital or?
No, the interpreter works best.
Yeah, okay. So you've been, playing catch up with a lot of things that.
A lot of things.
Bringing stuff to where we want it to be. How do you, if everything goes right this year, how do you envision things looking next year? I mean, are we going to be on?
Flawless transition. You will be smiling like this next year as well.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
I did have a question. You brought up that the Thompson Consulting. You had the way they work. Don't they do it like a baseline to start out with?
Well, they start off with a survey to see where the.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, that's the baseline.
yes.
Survey and you've used them before and
Yeah, we use them in
yeah,
operations too.
and they work very well.
They do.
And it's and you think it's going to have a similar impact out at the landfill?
The feedback has been very, very good from the training by just about everybody in our organization.
Yeah,
It lets them know we care, we want to build a new culture, teamwork, and move ahead. And I know we've had discussions, we want to get out of the muck of the past and start moving forward.
well, and I think the culture out there is what's really important. I
is.
mean, and I think part of that's on us. I mean, we need to make sure they're included and understand that they're part of the Ada County team and part of our family. And they need to know that, and that's why we've done a few things to hopefully build on that, and we'll continue to do that as well.
And Mark's still here. I'd like to thank Mark. Has been instrumental when we first took over the landfill to help stabilize a lot of the financials and to show Deb, our new finance and budget officer, a lot of tricks and such with budgets and
Yeah.
finance and how everything works. But Mark was awesome, so.
All right, well,
Thank
good.
you,
Well,
bud.
I don't have any more questions unless the commission, do you have any? All right,
I actually read your newsletters that come out.
Yes.
Very informative.
That's another Rebecca project is our new newsletter. I forgot to mention that. Thank you
Yeah.
for.
Very nice.
well, great, well, thank you, Bruce, we appreciate your work, and we appreciate your benefit you're adding to the community.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I think that does conclude unless, do you have anything else for today, Mr. Clerk Auditor?
No, sir. I know there's possible changes to the schedule, so just everyone stay tuned for those if they are to come out. But thank you for the work we've done so far. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I think we've chewed a big bite. Thank you, Kathleen. Are you coming back to help us in another year? No,
No, I will not.
you're done.
You're on your own next year.
All right, well, thank you. I think with that, we'll be adjourned.
Thank you.